Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to race number 33 of the season for the RTG Winston Cup Series. We're here tonight, nighttime racing in the desert at Phoenix Raceway, as we're getting set for the closing stages of this season, season 51. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Jessica Shelton. And Jess, a couple of storylines coming into tonight. Of course, they've got their chase going on, but more importantly, a champion could be crowned here tonight.
That's right, Dante Ricky with a nice point lead right here. But if he gets in trouble, I mean, we got 25 drivers that are so far qualified for this field. Dante, from what I remember you mentioning, 17th or better in order to clinch this. So he's got to hope that he doesn't get any damage and fall behind in the race, because this is realistic damage, and you only get 4 tire pit stops, 2 park series as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Dante Ricky tonight, it's going to be all about preservation. And he, as early as this 33rd race with 4 races remaining in the season, could be the champion. We're going to talk with him now and see what his strategy is for tonight's race. Dante, is Jess and Seth up here in the booth? You got us?
Yeah, I got you, Seth.
Well, I mean, man, a lot of pressure on you coming into tonight's race. You've got a big enough points lead that you could clinch the title here tonight with a 16th run or better. You qualified 6th. Do you stay up there at the front, or do you maybe fall to the back and preserve your stuff to keep your car out of trouble?
Well, my plan for tonight is to stay up in the front, out of trouble as much as possible, because middle to back of this pack, I don't know what's going to happen. We have a few people in this race tonight that haven't been here every week, and most of them are very good drivers. And I really think that the key tonight is track position over anything else, and keeping the race car clean, getting it to the finish. Those are the big things for tonight. We cannot have any mistakes in the pit road, and I'm going to need to do my best to take care of the race car, stay out of the walls, and stay out of trouble, because this racetrack is tough. It eats tires off of the corners, especially off of 2. And as the run goes on, that wall might get a few of those drivers tonight. So we're just going to be very careful and conservative about our strategy. We'll make sure we get into the pit road with plenty of time to keep our track position, more so than getting a tire advantage over anyone else. So I just want to get the car to the finish, and keep it clean tonight, and stay out of trouble. Those are my goals. So I'm really looking forward to how this race goes and how it plays out. Dave Melson's really fast tonight in the 13 car. Robert with that pole time, he's been fast. So it's going to be really exciting watching us go out there and race here at Phoenix.
If Jess has any questions for you here before you
No,
climb
no,
that car.
I don't know if we got plenty of time for the questions. I mean, we can try to interview them afterward if we need to, because we're about to go green, and very shortly they're getting ready to go in the field, Seth.
All right, Dante. Well, then we'll let you get down there to your race car, let you get mentally ready here for this one. 140 laps, going to be a long one. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, Seth and Jess.
Robert Balcom, who's going to be lining up on the pole position, as Dante just alluded to. I mean, this guy has been on a tear. I'm counting right now. It looks like he has won 10 of the last 10 of the last 13 races, I should say, here in this series. I mean, you kind of wonder if he had run the entire full season, what kind of a points battle we'd be having between himself and Dante Ricky. But you and I covered a broadcast last night, Jess, when these drivers were taken to Texas Motor Speedway. Balcom didn't qualify. He was towards the back of the pack. Now that he's up here at the front tonight, do we see a dominating performance out of Balcom, or is there someone in the field that we see possibly challenging him for this win?
I actually foresee a few of these other drivers, like, Bernie Mobbs, he's starting 8th. He's going to want to try to get there and lead a lap to get a point, to try to see if he can do something with Dante's championship run that he's got, because Bernie's 11 points back. I think Robert might try to just run the racetrack. If he gets past, I don't think he'll worry about it. I think we've seen Robert, doesn't matter where he qualifies, if he qualifies middle or even to the back, in time he will show up. So I think Robert will just probably focus on what he's doing with his car at the track and slowly come back up the way he is. We've seen Dave Melson recently, though. Every time Dave is around the front, he's always a front runner for the top 5. And last night he was doing really well. Got caught back up, and he came back to finish. And then I think he finished third last night, didn't he?
Yeah,
So
he did.
there's that issue with Dave and Chuck McClure. He's been on a tear. We saw him be really aggressive last night, way in the back, charge way up near the front. Came home with a really decent finish. And we're about to get going on a pit road for them to do the pace up to come around.
Yes, we are. These drivers going to be getting ready to roll off the pit road as Robert Bauckham and Dave Melson going to be the front row. Row 2 is where we find Terry Bombard and Stefan Martel. Row 3 is Chuck McClure and Dante Ricky, who we may be calling the champion at the night's end. He'll roll off from 6th. Frank Rivard and Bernie Mobbs in row 4. And completing the top 10 will be Bob Dixon and Andre Rayum. Dave Robbins and Ronald Lucet, they make up row 6. Row 7 is Randy Waugh and Richard Martin. Row 8, Robbie Nisus and Benoit Plourde. Doug Cady will roll off from 17th alongside of Andre Majong. Mitch Bombard will be 19th. Completing row 10 will be Jim Gloud. Cy Jones and Jay Crivello in the next row, and then completing out the rest of the field will be Jeremy Jeffries, John Godfrey, and Jeffrey Elliott. The scenario here tonight for Dante Ricky is to finish 16th or better to clinch up the championship. Bernie Mobbs is the one driver that's hoping that 84 car runs into trouble because he is second in the points coming into this one. If Dante finishes outside of the top 16, Bernie still has a shot in these final 4 races, but we're green flag racing here tonight at Phoenix.
A couple of drivers slowly backing off to go to the back here. Robbie Nisus, 56 of I believe it's either Crivello or Jeffrey is moving to the back. I think they're trying to set themselves up to get themselves in a rhythm because they're expecting a long run, I would imagine, Seth.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that Dante touched on is we got some side-by-side battling here just outside of the top 5 with Mobbs, Rayum, Dixon, and Lucet. But as he said, I think you also touched on this as well. 4 pit stops is all these drivers are able to make. Now, we know that these guys, fuel-wise and tire-wise, they can make it about 45 to 50 laps. Their tires are going to be shredded by the time they get to that point. So realistically, we're really only looking at a 2-stop strategy here tonight for these drivers. But of course, as well, you're going to want to keep at least a set of tires available in case there's a late race yellow.
Yeah, you and I had a nice race a few weeks back at a RTG scenario at Dover. If you remember that, we had saved a little bit of tire, and then all of a sudden caution came out and ruined the whole thing. So you never know with this group here. I mean, everything could be set until a nice long run. Strategy could change in a heartbeat. Just it all depends on where that caution flies. And this is a older version of Phoenix. So as we see the start finish lines on the back on the straightaway here, and they don't have that runoff like they would want. That's all grass and a curb now. So they can't go down there to improve their position and go 3 or 4 wide like they would normally do nowadays.
And for that very reason is why we nearly saw contact there around the 14th position between Benoit Plourde and Randy Waugh. As you said, normally at the updated Phoenix, you've got that runoff down there. That grass isn't there anymore. A much more narrower back straightaway for these drivers to have to deal with. And that could certainly lead into a couple of mistakes, especially going down
very wide back here with Jeremy Jeffries, Randy Waugh, and looks like
Andre Majong.
Yeah, they're catching on Benoit Plourde here. I mean, they have Jeremy starting in the back, and he's trying his way to work up there. I mean, we rarely ever see Jeremy start in the back.
And Andre Majong, and he's going to spin as a Jim Gloud and Randy Waugh. They all
Caution will be out. Caution is out.
That's a pretty hard hit with the front of that mellow yellow machine back there of Jim Gloud.
And you got to remember, this is realistic damage, so that one will affect him on that front end.
Certainly will. A lot of front-end damage and rear-end damage on Randy Waugh as well. The contact started between Randy Waugh and Andre Majong, and it looked like they were actually going to save it. It almost looked like Randy Waugh was going to straighten the 27 back out, but then there was just a little bit of extra contact, and they went around there in turn 3, and a lot of damage on that 72 car. We'll see if he can get that repaired, but that's certainly going to affect him for the rest of this race.
Really hard racing back there. We saw him almost go 3 wide. I was touching on Jeremy Jeffries and Randy Waugh going side by side, and there was a little bit of a front corner I saw of Andre Majong barely getting in there. They ran up on Benoit Plourde, and you get these runs, you feel like you want to take them because it's not one of those bigger tracks like we're used to seeing like Texas, Auto Club, Michigan, the play tracks and all. So you see an opening on a shorter track like this or Martinsville or Bristol, you want to take that position no matter what, because you don't need someone to push you on that bottom or that high side to make the pass in this race.
Yeah, Doug Cady got a piece of that too. And to your point there, yeah, that's one of the things that I love about Phoenix too, especially over in what is 3 and 4 here tonight at the reconfigured track 1 and 2, is the fact that you have so many different options of your entry into the corner, the way that you want to carry it through the center, and the way that you want to exit off of the turn in terms of the speed and the momentum you carry. It's not like everybody has to approach the corner the exact same way. Unfortunately, on the flip side, since different drivers have different approaches, there's different areas where you let off and use the brake, and not everybody's going to be on the same page. I think that's why we had a little bit of that stack up going into 3. Of course, the initial contact, though, I think very much so was led to the fact that it's that narrow back straightaway where Andre Mahjong and Randy Waugh just kind of ran each other out of room.
Yeah, it does push up slightly off the corners, and you gotta get ready to prepare your mind for the next entry, and you don't get a lot of time to really focus on that next entry you're about to take, Seth. I wanted to touch on something. We were talking about the point stands about Dante Ricky. Dante is still running sixth at this point. Um, we mentioned Bernie Mobbs, 11 points back, but you got Bob Dixon, Benoit Poirier, Cy Jones, and Dave Melson. These four drivers are in a battle for third, 14 points back. And if Dante has a problem that ends up makes him go way in the bottom, or it retires below 17th, these other four might have a chance to gain and actually try to go to next week's race to battle for the championship there and see if they can close in any more on him.
Yeah, there's 2 championships that are going on here in this series. The one that we're talking about at the top of the program is the overall championship in the 36 race season. The one that Jess is talking about here is actually the chase. They had a segment 1, they had a segment 2, which covered the quotes regular season races 1 through 26, and now they have the 10 race chase system, which actually last week saw 3 of their 12, I believe it's 12 drivers, or maybe it was 10, get eliminated from the chase. Ronald Lucet, Mitch Bombard, and Jim Glaude getting eliminated last week. 6 drivers remain. And yeah, I mean, Dante Ricky obviously is, I think, overall looking for that complete season championship. But yeah, definitely still gives these drivers something to race for here in these final few races of the season.
And when they race, every so often when that caution comes out, they're like, well, I want to come down to pit road. I want to get gas. Sometimes they forget that, hey, I got my tires checked, or I need brand new tires, and they don't keep count of how many times they stop. This is a series that does 4 pit stops only for tires. You can only take tires 4 times. Doesn't matter if it's 2 sides or 4. You have to pit only 4 times for tires, and if you go over that, you will be penalized. And unfortunately, that happened to a driver last week, and that driver was going to be in the chase, and unfortunately dropped the driver out of the chase with consequences based on taking that 5th pit stop.
Yep, that was Ron Lucet. Finished 5th last week at Homestead, Miami. But as you said, took a 5th pit stop. That was 1 pit stop over the allowed number of times to come to pit road, and subsequently was one of the 3 drivers eliminated from the chase. As we're getting ready to go back green here after an early yellow, Robert Bauckham and Dave Melson get us back underway, and Melson got himself a pretty good restart there. Did not let Robert Bauckham get away from him.
Now, we've seen Melson in the past couple of races. He's really been on the gas. I mean, he really wants to get up there to the front. We keep getting some interviews with him. Top 5, top 5, top 5. He wants to break that. He wants to actually get the win. Because I recall him being second and third a few times for our broadcast, and he's really putting the pressure on Robert. He wants to get around him now and get out front and see if he can drive away.
Look at this, going to go to the inside there in turn 1, power move. I think Robert Bauckham realized that the 13 car wanted to get to the front and wasn't willing to force the issue this early on. I think, maybe we're going to see a little bit more of that with drivers making moves, just based on the fact for these drivers, they're wanting to preserve those tires.
Oh, Doug Cady back here. He really drove it in deep, and they are almost
stacking up.
Their caution is out. Caution is out.
Yellow flag is out. We saw Richard Martin get sent up into the wall there by, I think that was Dave Robbins. And hard to tell back here who it was that necessarily brought out the caution.
Well, I was looking at it, so I didn't see anyone actually get around.
Yeah, same.
I saw them stack up here, but I didn't see anyone go fully around. I don't know what labeled the caution to come out. That was kind of awkward in my opinion.
Yeah, Richard Martin got sent up to the outside wall but never went around. I'm seeing some skid marks possibly into 3, but I don't know if that was from this incident or if that was from the previous incident that we saw. We'll go back and see if we can find out what happened. There is sometimes as well where a car, if it deaccelerates quickly enough, where race officials will actually, and NR will read that as a car coming to a stop and maybe read that as caution worthy. We'll see if that was the case here or not, or if somebody actually did go around to bring out this yellow flag. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think what happened, Seth, is in front of Richard Martin, where Bob Dixon is.
that 62 maybe?
Yeah, I think the 62 got more to an angle, and oncoming traffic was in the process. I think that might be why the caution was actually thrown.
I think you're right. Boy, that was Andre Room almost running over Bernie Mobs, and then Luce almost runs him over. I think you hit it perfectly there,
The,
Jess. I think
the
it was the
96
62.
slams right in the back of the 143. I mean, they gotta hope that their damage isn't that bad because some of these drivers are still battling for certain positions here.
The other thing, too, is these drivers, they're not only running realistic damage, but they're running realistic weather. And we know that here in the desert, it is going to be hot. You get damage to the front end of that race car. I know this from firsthand experience. It doesn't seem like much, but you get damage to the front area around the grill. It's going to take no time for that car to start heating up and that engine to possibly blow if you get into a long green flag run.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how calmly and try to easily you will take it either. I mean, too much damage, and you can be sitting there running like a few miles an hour off the pace that everyone else is running. It doesn't matter. It'll blow right up. It gets so hot and everything else. But also, you got the wind. We've seen the wind go from 7 miles an hour down to 1 mile an hour, go from east, south, north, northeast, west, all different directions here, south. And they're also fighting that when they go into the corner, which will push them up, maybe kind of slow down their speed in the certain corner where they thought they was comfortable last lap, and all of a sudden now it doesn't feel right.
It's a huge difference when instead of running a clear 70, which a lot of leagues do when you run with the realistic weather, because you're constantly fighting the racetrack. There's no guarantee the car is going to feel exactly the same way going into turn 1 the lap before as it does currently. So these drivers are constantly having to keep themselves aware that with the changing track conditions and the setup that's under them, it's going to constantly change as well. We're going to check in real quickly here with Dante Ricky. You can see he is running in the 6th position. He said his goal, stay out in front, stay ahead of all the mayhem. Well, we're working our second caution, and both of our incidents have happened around the mid-pack area. So very sound strategy here for Dante Ricky, kind of realizing that he doesn't want to be back there in that hornet's nest.
Looks like the top 10 is roughly all the same. Maybe top 8 is roughly the same, and the only difference is that Dave Nelson is currently the leader, getting some laps logged in up at the front, which is good to see the 13 up near the front holding steady. I don't think Robert Balcom actually minded that. I think, he saw Dave come and like, okay, well, you just take it. I'll just ride my race and hope he'll get you back later.
Harry Bombard's now up there in the 3rd position with Stefan Martel and Chuck McClure currently completing the top 5. And one thing that I noticed too, when we saw that near spin by Ronald Lucet, we have to remember these drivers are out there for about 3-4 laps of green flag condition. Then they had to have those worn out tires start cooling down. Then they went back out there for a restart. Tires start warming up again. There's not a whole lot of grip there. And Ronald Lucet simply was on the brakes to avoid running over the 63. If these drivers are trying to stretch it about 45 to 50 laps here for this run before finally coming down, taking that first set, these tires constantly warming up and cooling down really is going to affect them on these restarts.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be really nice in the bottom of the turn 1, especially because we heard Dante earlier say that coming off turn 2 get really tight. We're back to the green now, so that's on lap 16 to start 16.
15 laps completed here as they start fanning out, heading for turn 1. Dave Melson able to hook right down there on the yellow line. He'll take the lead. Balcom into second. Terry Bombard, though, was somewhat down on the apron there in 1 and 2, but he was able to get by Martel for 3rd.
We just watched John Godfrey back here. He slid right up from the bottom to the top. They are pushing up a little bit more. I'm not sure if they're taking it in too fast or too aggressively in the corners to push up, unless it's just the tire wear stuff.
Oh, Andre Mahjong, he got forced into the wall by Benoit Pleur. The two of them are going to make contact.
Caution is
going
out.
to come out. That was 3 wide coming off of turn 4. And this is one of those tracks where it just narrows up off the corner. You cannot do that.
Dave Melson will lead him back to the yellow, and he will continue to be the leader. But Seth, I mean, like I said, John Godfrey at the start of that pushed right up, and I was wondering, they're either taking it too aggressively in these corners, or the tire wear is starting to come into effect. You said they were 3 wide at that point. I'm just wondering, do you think some of these drivers are trying to be aggressive and some of them trying to back off a little bit, which is why we're getting to this 3 wide predicament?
It could be, but we also have to remember too, this is a 2 incident and park series. So, we're working our third caution here. Undoubtedly for each one of these 3 yellows, somebody is taking the responsibility, and we could end up seeing some drivers only, maybe even to the midway point of this race, possibly getting parked. I mean, there's a lot of drivers that are still trying to battle for the chase championship and everything. They're just trying to finish out the season with wins. This is not the way they want to get this race started with possibly already at 1 incident point.
And we've seen, Benoit Poir's going way up high. He's going around. I don't know if he's trying to get his position back or what.
Looking at the incident here off of 4, I mean, it wasn't 3 wide at first. It was double wide racing between Benoit Poir and Andre Mahjong. And it's hard to tell if Poir forced Mahjong up the track or if Mahjong just kept his foot in the throttle way longer than he needed to and got into the wall. They were 3 wide by the time the contact happened with, I think that was Mitch Bombard getting around the both of them. But the one driver that's going to affect probably the most would be the 87 of Benoit Poir, because he kind of went up into the outside wall with the nose of his John Deere Dodge.
And remember, Benoit Poir, he is in that chase position, trying to battle for a third with Bob Dixon, Cy Jones, and Dave Melson.
Absolutely. So we'll wait and see what the end result of this one is. I did see the 27 coming down pit road.
Andre Mahjong did retire. So.
He did retire out of the race, so he's going to be our first retiree here, finishing in the 25th position. Well, I mean, we knew that the track conditions were going to be difficult for these drivers, and I found it interesting too. I was observing practice. There were only 2 drivers that went out here and ran a full fuel run. And those 2 drivers were Frank Rivard and Dante Ricci. Another driver that ran quite a number of laps, although I don't think he did a full 50-lap run, was the 21 of Randy Wall. I mean, do you think that maybe because a lot of these drivers did maybe some short runs and didn't exactly practice the long run here, that's why we're seeing so many different drivers struggling early on these restarts?
Well, maybe some of these drivers were expecting that their tire wear, because remember, Dante, I don't know if you heard him earlier. Dante was out there doing the practice runs, and he told us, if memory serves, he was about 60-something% on his tires, left front and right front, and he was trying to make a full fuel run a little earlier on in the session, and maybe some of these drivers realized about how the tire wear was happening, and they don't like it. So they're expecting, we're going to short pit, we're going to short pit, we're going to short pit, expecting that it might be a caution fast or some type of a tire conservation mode where they'll fall off the pace, I'll pit, I'll get tires, I'll go back out there, and I'll gain more, based on my tires being fresh than everyone else's.
Yeah, the tough thing about it, too, at Phoenix is turns 1 and 2 here, everyone pretty much is able to approach it equally. Where you're able to make your passes for position is really over there in 3 and 4. And I've seen a number of times here on these restart laps, drivers having to almost slam on the brakes, almost running into the car in front of them, trying to utilize the speed that you can get there into turn 3 to make a pass. And I think that's leading to a lot of checkups on a lot of these wrecks as well.
Yeah, and we're talking about going 3 wide on that front stretch and all coming past start finish line. Yeah, there's no way I would like to be on that bottom going into turn 1 with 1 or 2 cars above me, because I know I'm going to slide up or I'm going to wreck going down low, and that back end's going to kick around one way or another.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way to be able to make that entry without the thing just driving straight, which actually surprised me why we've seen our race leaders coming to these restarts actually choose the inside line. Now, maybe they are able to arc it in somewhat to be able to get that inside line work to keep the race lead, but I was thinking that maybe just based on the way the configuration of 1 and 2 is, that maybe some of these race leaders would want to restart on the outside line. But Dave Melson on the bottom with Robert Bauckham to his outside leads us back to the green. It's our 3rd restart of the night.
Nick, touching on what you said though, Seth, if it were me, I would love to be on that middle to high line in 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. I wouldn't mind being on that bottom to get that run off.
You know, the tough thing probably for these drivers is the fact that they're doing the in-game yellows, where it doesn't really give that much of an advantage to the driver that's leading them back to green.
Oh,
So they
green
want to
yellow.
make sure they preserve that inside line. As we're almost having some contact again here off of turn 4. It's Dave Robbins and Richard Martin.
A little bit of contact there, and Bob Dixon and Godfrey are back here around with Doug Cady. They're, I don't know, stuff. They're really forcing the issue. They're really trying as hard as they can to get these positions, and I'm seeing them really go deep into turn 3. They're driving it hard in there, it looks like, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not really understanding this, and maybe this is just because it goes against the way that I approach Phoenix in terms of wanting to conserve the tires and not force the issue. But yeah, I'm really surprised we're seeing this aggressive racing this early on, especially knowing that these drivers have now been out there, pretty much all of them have been out there for about 24 laps on their tires.
Yeah, I saw I'm back here looking at Robbie Nice's in the number 54 machine. There's a 2-second gap between him and the 19th position of Randy Waugh. Randy Waugh, from what I'm looking at, he's driving it in pretty deep in turn 3 especially, and just he's losing some time off of 4 because he has to back up to make sure he doesn't overdrive it or spin out. So all that time you're gaining on that entry, you have to give it all the way back and then some, because if you don't, you're going to hit the wall or you're going to go around one way or another. And it's kind of like a give or take. You go hard into the corner, you might gain a spot, but then exit off. You got to make sure you know what you're doing, otherwise you're going to go up or spin out, and you're just eating your tires even more.
Look at Jeremy Jeffries trying to get that second line to work around Dave Robbins. He's going to get the
He
wall.
almost got out of that.
Yeah.
Richard Martin's going to capitalize off of that.
And remember, it's realistic damage too, so that's going to be some pretty extensive right side damage, I would think, on that monster Chevrolet, as he slapped it pretty well.
Up at the front, Terry Bombard's kind of dogging Robert Balcom. Balcom's closing back up on Dave Melson, who's backing off a little bit in the corner.
Yeah,
Probably saving a little bit.
We had about a 3-car group up here for the moment, but now it looks like Stefan Martel and Chuck McClure in 4th and 5th are starting to make it a 5-man fight up here for the race lead. And just another thing that people might be wondering here, on this back straightaway, you'll see down in the bottom of your screen the yellow rumble strip. It's there, but it's not really something these drivers can utilize. It really upsets the race car. As we saw a couple of laps ago, Andre Rayum got his left sides down there and nearly spun it around as McClure makes the pass for 4th.
Meanwhile, I'm watching the 62 of Ronald Luzier. He's kind of, it looks like, I'm not sure whether he's a little bit off the pace after that wreck, or he's just trying to be very careful. So he lost the spot to Bob Dixon, and he almost got ran over a moment ago by the 56 of Jeffrey Elliott.
Well, I'd have to think that we saw him have that near spin that brought out, I think it was our second caution. You'd have to think that kind of has him a little bit nervous going into these corners, wondering if the car is going to stick or not.
And there is a gap between Frank Rivard. And, it's good to see Frank running the top side. He's running currently 7th at the moment, and he had a really good night going last night until an unfortunate incident happened to him. But it's good to see that he's up here in the top 10. Good going right now. I mean, it's early on, but still, you got Stefan Martel running up here in 5th, holding the 5th position down pretty pat. The top 4 seem to be pulling away slightly, so it looks like the battle for the lead's about to heat up again.
Yeah, definitely looks like it, although I'm not really sure how much pressure Robert Balcom's going to put on Dave Melson here, because as we touched on this last night, it's kind of classic Robert Balcom to just currently ride, save his stuff, and then pounce at the closing stages of the race. We're looking back here at 8th position. That's where we find Bernie Mobbs. Now, Bernie Mobbs came into this race 166 points behind Dante Ricky. That's why Dante here tonight, with a finish of 16th or better, could lock up the entire season championship, but Bernie still trying to keep that 84 within striking distance to at least advance into the next round of the playoffs, because I believe it is after next week, it will be only 4 drivers that would move on to the next round of the playoffs.
Seth, I'm up here looking at the front at Robert Balcom here. In 1 and 2, he swings it wide going into 1. And he gets a huge run in the middle coming into 2. So he'll go really wide up here and a little bit higher up than what Nelson does, and he's able to stick it down at the bottom and get that run. And then in 3 and 4, he's able to hold his own underneath a little bit lower than what Nelson's running. So I'm not sure whether that's gaining him much or whether it's actually eating his tires, but he's making really good use of it. He's going to close right up on the quarter panel of Dave Nelson, and it looks like he's going to get right back in line, single file again, before he tries it one more time, I'm sure. But it just seems like Robert's using a different strategy, different line than what Nelson's running.
Well, what he's doing is allowing him to do two things. One, he's able to arc it more into the corner, carry more speed that way. And secondly, it gives him a straighter shot off the corner onto the back stretch or front stretch, whichever the case may be. We're seeing Dave Melson drive it in lower, and that's why he's pushing up off the corner, opening the door for Robert Balcom, who almost made a little contact there trying to take the top spot.
And back here, Dante Ricky just passed the 57 of Stefan Martel for 5th position. So Dante taking it nice and easy, and that's classic Dante, like Robert. Consistency, consistency, and consistency. That's all we've seen of Dante as well, and Dante is making it work and pay off for him.
We're finally into a long green flag run here as well, which is going to give us a good idea of who is better on the long run, who is conserving their tires, and who has used up their stuff here on the short run. I think we could put Stefan Martel on the list of drivers that have used up their stuff already.
Bernie, you got a little tap from Dave Robbins, and he saved it, but it's going to affect Bernie. Bernie's going to drop back here in the clutches of the 62.
Well, Bernie Ma's been struggling too. He lost a spot to Jeremy Jeffries not too long ago, and now has Dave Robbins around him, dropping him back to 10th, where he's fighting with Ron Lucet for that spot. Looks like Lucet with a very good back straightaway run. He's going to take the pass. Oh, man, something. I don't know if that near spin just warmed up those rear tires for Bernie Maas, but when he went into 3, there was no grip. He went up into that 3rd groove where there's no grip whatsoever.
Yeah, well, prior to that, Dave Robbins came underneath him and kind of slid up a little bit while Bernie was trying to make the corner off, and that front of Bernie barely touched the quarter panel of Dave Robbins and put him a slight tap in that wall. John Godfrey back there slightly got the wall as well, but you got to be careful not to overdrive it stuff. We're going to a long green flag run now, and the tires are wearing down. They're pushing up. The lap times are starting to fall off exponentially now.
Yeah, it's one of the cases now where if you're going to make a pass on somebody, you have to set them up. You can't just drive it in there if you get a run and hope that it sticks. As you said, that right front heating up and wearing down. Car's just not going to turn the way it did early on in this thing. It's nice to see this group of 5 actually settle it out, because they were racing double wide a couple rows deep, and we had some near contact between Martin and Katie. You mentioned John Godfrey getting the wall, so at least they've settled that out. Looks like we've got it pretty much now single file all the way through the field, as you saw right there, the 72 of Jim Glaude, now a lap down, hoodless, after being involved in that incident back on lap 2.
It seems like the battles that are happening more frequently are back here, or right around the 63 machine of Andre Rayum and Richard Martin and Doug Katie back here, Seth. It seems like you touched on it. They're all running single file up near the front. They're just taking their time. Nelson's continuing to lead Balcom. I don't know how much longer that's going to last, because Balcom has shown, I think he wants that top spot back a little bit more than we've seen him in the past.
Jeremy Jeffries is a man on a mission. Didn't have very many laps logged here tonight in practice. Actually, I'm not even sure he had any. Qualified 23rd and has been able to work his way up here in the first 40 laps to the 7th position. So you almost wonder if he can continue to pick up track position here, if he's going to be another driver that could be challenging Dave Melson and Robert Balcom for that top spot.
Well, we saw him last night at Texas. He got up near the front with who was it, Jeff Supta, and he was just riding along the whole time. He got mired back in traffic and had that unfortunate incident. So I think he wants to try to redeem himself tonight.
Battle for the lead continues to be nose to tail between Dave Melson and Robert Balcom. And I think you brought up this question I didn't answer it in terms of Balcom. Even though he is running this line, yeah, he is wearing his tires down. For Dave Melson, the line he's running, it's that right front that he's wearing down, especially on corner exit. For Robert Balcom, what he's going to have to worry about in the latter stages of this run is the rear tires, because he is sliding the back end going into the corner, arcing it the way he is.
Now, the one part driver I'm seeing picking up spots is that 63 of Andre Rayum. He's taking his time methodically working forward, and he just passed another car.
Now,
so he might be someone we need to watch. And Doug Katie's finally caught Stefan Martel, and he's getting ready to probably set him up for a pass, and then right in front of Stefan is Bernie Mob. So I mean, Bernie's got to rethink his whole strategy moving forward, because at this rate, Dante is just going to win the title, the overall title, and Bernie struggling trying to stay right there 11 points behind in the chase that segment as well.
Yeah, I mean, the problem here for Bernie Mobs, he can obviously try and keep it close for the chase segment. Right now, though, I don't think he can do anything to affect the overall championship, because that's just basically in the court of Dante Ricky. If Dante Ricky finishes outside the top 16, then Bernie Mobs can do something. But with Dante running the way he is, there's nothing that 90 car can do.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a cluster up here as we see Dante getting by Chuck McClure, and a couple of other drivers following him as well, Frank Rivard and Jeremy Jeffries.
McClure was up as high as 4th place. I think we got a car on pit road.
Richard Martin.
And I'm not certain if that's a scheduled pit stop or not.
Cy Jones is on pit road as well.
Drivers pitting around lap 44, which would kind of make sense because we calculated about 45 to 50 laps on a run. They did have the opportunity with those 3 early cautions to maybe save some fuel under the pacing, but this would be right around the mark, I guess, for these drivers to start making their first pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, we got 140 laps left. I mean, we got what was it, about a 50 lap run on fuel if you want to stretch it, that we I think we heard about 45, 50 laps. So this is about close to the time that some of these drivers want to pit that actually stayed out. I mean, this is CTS physics regardless. They plus the realistic damage. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're starting to like pit stops now to the next couple of laps.
We'll have to wait and see about our race leaders.
3
here.
wide up here on the front stretch again. Oh, Ronald Luzier just backed out of that.
Dave Robbins, Chuck McClure, and Ronald Lucet, as Robbins will take the spot there from McClure. Lucet looking to do the same thing. Looks like Chuck McClure may have used up his stuff here in the early portion. Well, actually, I should say the later portions of this run, as he's now about to drift outside of the top 10.
Just to touch on the running order here, Jim Gloud is 1 lap down, Richard Martin 2, Cy Jones 2, and the only retiree still, Andre Marjan, 27th, finishing the 25th position, Seth. Well,
and we have drivers inside the top 10 pitting. Terry Bombard and Chuck McClure on pit road this time.
Yeah, I was about to mention that there were some pit stops happening here.
Bombard pitting from the 8th position, McClure pitting from 13th. Now we have
Jeremy. Go ahead, Seth. Sorry.
I was just going to say, now we have to wait and see about our race leaders here, because just looking at the lap times, based off the difference from their best lap time to their current lap times, there's about a little over a second to be gained, about 1.2, 1.3 seconds to be gained on fresher tires.
And I'm sitting here looking at Dante, Ricky, Frank Brevard, Jeremy Jeffries. They're running nose to tail on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th position. I think Dante will probably try to stay as long as Robert Balcom is out right now. I think when we see Robert and Dave come in, Dante will either come in that lap or he'll come in the following lap, most likely.
Well, let's remember, too, that Dante Ricky, if he's able to lead a lap here tonight, then he would only have to finish in the 18th position. So maybe his goal here is to get a lap-led bonus point, give himself a 1-position cushion here. Oh, Robert Balcom, he is able to rotate through the center so well. Gets right up to the back bumper there of Dave Melson. The problem is he's not able to get enough of a run to get to the inside of Dave Melson on the straightaways.
I apologize. I was hitting the wrong button to talk. But Seth, you were saying about Balcom here. I mean, Balcom's going to run out of time to make that move. He really wants to make that move. I think yeah, there goes Melson. Melson's pitting. I was going to say Balcom's going to have to make a decision shortly whether he wants to come into pit or stay out, and he's going to stay out. Jeremy
Jeffries is in this lap as well in the 8 car, and we saw there Terry Bombard, the difference of the fresh tires to old tires was as if Ron Lucet was running about 15 miles per hour slower, and now Terry Bombard about to make a pass here on Richard Martin.
Andre Rayum, Doug Cady, Bernie Mobs, they're all in right now, Seth. I wonder when we're going to see Robert and Dante coming, because Frank Rivard and Dante, they're running close together, staying out along with Robert like I suggested.
Here's Balcom. Dante
Yep.
Ricky, Frank Rivardin, Ronald Lucet. Boy, there's a lot of drivers that were hard on the brakes there. Rivard looked fast coming in. Balcom looked fast coming in.
Oh, this is going to be tight, Robert. Back off. Oh, almost a little bit of a
Contact.
cluster there with Bernie and Doug coming out of the pit road while Robert was trying to come in.
And I think there was some contact made there between the 18 and the 90. As looks like the race lead. Well, looks like everybody that was on the lead lap actually came to pit road that time. I don't
Well,
think
now,
anybody's getting this bonus point for the lap led yet.
well, now that we're looking at it, we know that they can probably go about 50 laps because if you got to give or take the caution lap, a few extra laps. Look like Jeffrey Elliott will inherit the lead at the moment and get a bonus point for the 056 family machine car from 90s of Ted Musgrave's color. I believe it was Musgrave that ran that car at that point. So.
I think you're right. And I actually just also noticed, I don't know if it was because of that pit road incident, but Stefan Martel almost loops it around there off of 4. But Dante Ricky was able to get out ahead of Robert Balcom, as was Dave Melson. So Balcom, I'm not exactly sure where he's going to cycle around to, but he's going to be behind a couple of drivers that he was ahead of when these pit stops began. I think the race lead might cycle around eventually to the 10 of Terry Bombard, I think.
Well, what I think just cost Robert was that pit stop, having to be careful and not get any damage from the 90 and the 007 of Katie, because remember when he was coming, he was kind of backing off so he wouldn't run into him. And I think that right there is what cost him some time.
Do you think maybe as well, when they made contact, it may have given a little bit of left front damage to the 18, and he wasn't able to uncheck the damage before he pulled into his pit stall?
I don't think that was enough damage to actually affect him. It looked like it was too much of a hard hit. I just think him having to slow down cost him a few precious seconds on pit road, Seth.
Like John Godfrey in the 7-Eleven, I think he may be coming down pit road this time.
Yes, he is. He's already in. He's already in.
We're waiting for Jeffrey Elliott, Jay Crivello, and Randy Waugh to hit pit lane. I think these drivers all were on pit road. I think it was under the second caution, so they can go a little bit further than everybody else. But when they do come to pit road, we're actually watching what will eventually be the battle for the race lead. Terry Bombard, who was one of the first lead lap cars to come to pit lane, leading Dave Melson. And there's a cluster in front of them. Cy Jones nearly taking out the top 2. Robbie Nice is there as well.
Melson's running that bottom on those fresh tires, and these guys out a little bit longer. They're running the high line. And you also got to think about this stuff. There's a few drivers that are lapped here. I mean, if that caution comes out, there's going to be a lot of wave arounds.
Definitely is. There's no doubt about that. That's one of the tough things about Phoenix is it's one of those tracks where if you're running in the back half of the field after a long green flag run, you're almost invariably going to lose a lap. Now, of course, we have to remember too, Jeffrey Elliott, Jay Crivello, Randy Waugh, when they come to pit road, a number of those drivers that are lapped down will probably be cycling back around on the lead lap. I think we're going to have 19 of them on the lead lap. As looking at John Godfrey there in the 7-Eleven, he would technically be the first car one lap down in 20th when those top 3 hit pit lane.
Well, Jeffrey Elliott's still out here leading. He's going into turn 1. He's closing on the slower machine, the machine of Jim Gloud here in the 72. I didn't mention this earlier, but you know how we mentioned about the dogleg back here, right? And how it's not paved. Well, we should also think about 3 and 4. How many different versions of Phoenix have we ran where that there's a lot of room to go on that apron coming into 3 and off of 4? They can't use that here because there's such a narrow position right there to go down. And when they get down there, I'm sure that car will either want to shoot up the track or just spin out, depending on their grip level down there.
Yeah, I could tell you from experience that the thing they really don't have to worry about as much is that line down there. What they have to worry about if they try and use the apron down there in 3 and 4 is when they go down and when they come back up, that paint line. There is no grip there whatsoever, and I think that's actually what Stefan Martel hit a couple laps ago when we nearly saw him spin out of turn 4.
I got to be careful all around, especially when it's a damaged, damaged race. That realistic damage. We talked about it last night as well. Just a little bit of a tap, no damage whatsoever. You hit it again, there's more damage, and then after that, if you get the damage repaired, a slight little smaller tap will automatically put that damage back on there. I mean, this is a short track. It's not really hugely draft reliant, but I mean, in that case, with it not being a huge draft reliant, that side, if that side's caved in a little bit, it's going to affect you.
Jeffrey Elliott continues to turn laps here. He just led his 10th lap of the race. And while I understand this strategy that he's able to stretch a little bit further on fuel than everybody else, he is losing a ton of time to the fresher tires around him. You see Andre Rieu being able to blow by him on the outside line. For Jeffrey Elliott, yes, he is going to get some lap sled, but he's almost invariably, when he comes to pit road, going to be trapped a lap down. It looks like he's pitting now.
I think he's going to be trapped down 2 laps because Melson and Bombard are coming off a 4 right now, and they're battling. They're getting close to battle for this lead here. Melson's all over the back end of Terry Bombard. Oh, he's going to make the move right here, Seth.
Got a great run there out of 4. He'll have the inside advantage going into turn 1.
13
And on those
to
fresh
the
tires,
front.
he is able to hook that bottom, is Dave Melson, and easily made that pass.
Where is Jake Crivello at, Seth?
Crivello,
Oh, I see him. He's right in front going in turn 3. I think he might be pitting this time because he's slowing down. No, he's staying out.
If we can find him here. There he is in the 56 machine. He'll
Going
get
into
his
turn
first
in.
lap lead of the night.
But he ain't going to hold that lead very long because faster cars, Dave Nelson, Harry Bombard, Jeremy Jeffrey starting to close in on this as well. They're going to blow right by him.
Yes, they are. This is for position here as Melson moves by. Bombard looking to do the same. Whoa, John Godfrey enters that corner a little hot as he almost got up into Crivello. Right now, he is praying for a yellow flag because he would be the first car 1 lap down, as would, I believe, Richard Martin in the 43.
Dante Ricky goes back up into the top 5 at this point before long when Crivello pits. Dante will be going up to the 4th position. I'm looking at Bernie Mobbs back here. He's struggling holding on to that 10th position. He's 14.5 seconds back currently right now, Seth.
You see Robert Balcom back there too, right now in the 7th position as things cycle around currently. And he was in 2nd when the green flag pit stops began. That contact between himself and Bernie Mobbs really hurting him. And Jeremy Jeffries is now up to the 3rd position. And I honestly feel, just based on how we saw him slowly work his way through the field, I think that could be one of the fastest cars in this field here tonight. So if he's able to get up there in the same zip code as Dave Melson, I think that 13 might have to be careful, as he was all by himself there. I don't know if you just saw that, but Dave Melson by himself.
Elliott. Oh, there's a wreck off the 4. No caution. Yep, their caution is out.
Yep, caution's going to come out as Crivello getting spun by, I believe that was Elliott, spins him down to pit road entry. And I almost wonder if maybe the 56 was going to come to pit road and someone behind him may not have gotten the information.
I'm wondering if what happened was, Elliott pit. Elliott had fresher tires, and you had that run coming up. And remember, we saw Crivello. He stayed out for a while. So I'm wondering if Elliott ran right on the back of him because Elliott couldn't go to the high side. He had Chuck McClure up there. So, I mean, you slow down, and then bam, just a slight little tap. That's all it takes here at this track because it's a shorter track than what we've been seeing lately in the schedule. So, I mean, when they make contact in these corners, Seth, it doesn't take much of a slight little bump to send you around.
I was just looking real quickly at the chat, and indeed, Jay Crivello posted in the chat he was coming to pit lane this time. So I don't know if Jeffrey Elliott just did not see that or not. But you see right there, the 56, he's slowing. He's coming to pit lane, and Elliott goes down on the apron to try and pass him, not realizing that Crivello's trying to get to pit lane. Now, I mean, I guess the good news is that Crivello is going to be able to make it to pit lane, and he is going to actually be able to stay on the lead lap as a result as well. But man, look how close he was to hitting that inside wall with the rear of that car.
Well, Jeffrey Elliott is labeled 1 lap down with Jake Crivello, but I'm not sure after all this cycles out who the other lucky dog will be, because I don't think they award. I'm not sure about the lucky dog if you make contact or the cause of the caution, if you get that lap back or not. But now we've at the very least, if we've got 16 drivers on the lead lap currently, and there's Dave Robbins and Andre Rayon looking for a position, trying to pit, and they can't seem to work that out.
Almost had a wreck there at the very front of pit road also, with Dave Melson having to swing around Robert Balcom, who was in the number 1 pit stall. He almost didn't get off of pit road ahead of Terry Bombard.
Looks like Balcom's gonna be back in the thick of this now. I mean, that caution saved Robert Balcom, I believe.
Yeah, he was back there in traffic, was back around the 6th or 7th position. Looks like he's going to be around 5th for this restart. I think that number 1 pit stall helping him out to gain a couple of spots there on pit road, but it looks like it's going to be Dave Melson, Terry Bombard, Jeremy Jeffries, Dante Ricky, and Robert Balcom. When we go back green, we are just to the halfway point here. Next time around, we'll be halfway through this race, and currently 16 of our drivers on the lead lap. We're going to have 2 drivers that
Actually, Seth, it is now 20 drivers on the lead lap showing
yeah,
on
we
the
got a
standings.
couple of drivers taking the wave around here. Godfrey, Elliott, Randy Waugh, Richard Martin, and Benoit Plord look like they'll all be taking the wave around here.
So far, 70 laps are completed, Seth. I mean, what's your opinion of what we've seen? We've seen Nelson be up near the front most of this run, and you know, he's right back up at the front. Pit stops happen. We saw a little bit of mishaps, a little bit of miscommunication coming into pits with Robert Balcom trying to make his way in while 2 drivers were trying to lead with Doug Cady and Bernie Mobbs. And Bernie himself, and battling for this championship, he did not need that little bit of a hesitant act with Balcom coming in, and Balcom up near the front, and he lost a lot of ground at that point. How are you looking at it from this point on out with for 70 laps?
Well, I mean, the thing I'm looking at here is the fact, with all the points you just brought up, pit road has been playing as much of a factor into who's running where as the reaction we've seen on the racetrack itself. Obviously, with the way that Phoenix is a tire killer, these drivers have to come to pit road at some point. These drivers are still going to have to deal with pit road here at some point before the conclusion of this race. So, the money stop's coming up. I still think pit road has a part to play.
I just heard from Dante, I believe it'll be an extended. They're trying to figure out the wave rounds, etc. Provello South retires. And the 21st position, he'll fall down to the 24th after a few laps. And Jim Glau, 2 laps down. Cy Jones, 2 down. And Robbie Nice is currently 1 lap down.
That's a tough break there for Jay Crivello because, when he got spun out there off of turn 4, he was still on the lead lap at the time, and they have the frozen field caution, so I thought he was going to be able to stay on the lead lap, and even despite the fact that he was spinning out, was at least going to gain some track position prior to where he was when we went back green for our 3rd restart. But tough break there as he'll join Andre Mahjong in the garage area. You see the pace car is peeling off, but as you alluded to, Jess, we got this extended caution, so these drivers will actually be taking the wave around, and we will be going back green next time around.
Well, they're pacing currently right now.
Got Dante Ricky still up there in that 4th position, and he said he wants to keep himself at the front to be able to preserve this championship, to take this championship 4 races prior to the season finale. I almost wonder, with the fact that he's up here at the front, he's been very consistent. I mean, he's been slowly picking his way through the field. He started this race back from 6th. He's been now up as high as 4th, kind of been hovering around inside the middle half of the top 10. If he's in a position to win this race, does he go for it?
Honestly, if I were in the spot that Dante's in, if you see a chance to win, I wouldn't think that he wouldn't go for it. I think he would go for it. But honestly, I think, hey, I'm above 16th. I'm just gonna ride because I know that the bigger picture is not winning; it's that championship, and he wants that title more than he wants to win.
Green flag back in the air. And talking about Dante Ricky, I mean, we've run 32 races here this season, and he's only been to victory lane in 3 of them, but has been consistent enough to have a huge triple-digit points gap coming into this race and a chance to wrap up the championship early.
Jeffrey Elliott under Cy Jones, they cleared that out side by side and they go back to single file. But there is a lot of racing already on this restart. So if they're looking to gain a lot of positions right away, it seems like after a couple laps, they go back to single file.
A couple of cars back here having some connection problems, which is kind of scary when they're all around each other. Dave Robbins in the 96, Doug Cady in the 7, having a little bit of side-to-side. A lot of side-to-side there on that 96 machine.
Yeah, and watch run. Yellow is out.
And let's see what caused this.
Jim Gloud.
Oh,
72.
yep. Boy, that car was crunched up on the front. It's now crunched up on the back. Looks like this may have been over in the middle of 1 and 2.
I hate to say this, but looking at that damage, I think he's done for the night now.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's been running the first 70 or so laps of this race after getting involved in a lap 2 incident, looking like a modified out there, and that car is crunched up on the front and the back. That mellow yellow can has been used up quite a bit. Go back and see what happened to him. This is our 5th caution of the night here, just past the halfway point of this race, and it looks like maybe Richard Martin in the 43 may have overdriven turn 1 a little bit here on the 72. Well, not really. It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another. The 72 came down, the 43 came up. Both wanted the same piece of real estate, and the 72, being on that outside line, gets the short end of the stick and backs it into that outside wall.
And a lot of leaders are staying out here, so I mean, they just came down to pit road. If they did, and Richard Martin is retiring based on that issue. I think that might have been his second incident, and he's parking it. You alluded to that earlier, that they got to be careful not to cause a couple of incidents because it is a 2-in-part series.
Absolutely. Yeah, Richard Martin looks like he'll be finishing in 23rd here tonight, as he has indeed brought that STP Pontiac down pit road and made the hard left-hand turn to the garage area. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see these drivers here with them staying out. I'm thinking more than likely they entered into this race the same way I was thinking, a 2-stop race, save those other set of tires for maybe a late race caution and maybe figure out, do you want the track position over tires? So I'm not expecting to see these guys back down pit road until maybe around somewhere 115, maybe as far as lap 125.
If they do come down, they're probably just going to take take gas and only.
Think they would
That's
go
it.
for that?
Well, I mean, you got 76 coming to 77. They get about 50 laps on fuel, so that's still going to cut them closer, the normal. I mean, if I was toward the middle and the back of this race right now, and I had fresh tires, I got nothing to lose. I'd come in and top it off and going back out. That way I can go a little bit longer and try to see if I can catch another caution.
Okay, I wasn't on the same wavelength with you. Yeah, middle to rear of the field, definitely. I thought you were talking about the race leaders, and I'm thinking, not sure you want to give up this track position here because we saw how long it's
I'm not
taken
going to
for
argue
Jeffries.
with I'm not going to argue with Dante. He's up near the front. I'm not in this championship battle, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen how long it's taken for Jeremy Jeffries to work his way up to where he is. It's taken him 70 laps to work his way from the 30th starting spot now up to the 3rd running spot. So
And the 72 is going to continue, Seth. And if you look at his car now, he's got no back end.
And I mean, maybe he's just out here to try and continue logging laps, but, for Jim Glaude, he's not in the championship battle. He got eliminated from the chase last week at Homestead, so not really sure what else there is to race for. It looks like Robbie Nisus in the 54 came down to make a pit stop, and actually, I believe that with this caution coming out, this is actually going to put Robbie Nisus back on the lead lap, and I
Ty
believe...
Jones is going around to get a lap back.
Yep, that'll put him at -1.
And talk real quickly about this. We see Mellison. Mellison's been enjoying the front for a while, but now a back and forth in front of Dante Ricky is that 018 of Robert Balcom, so he's back now.
Balcom's back. Jeremy Jeffries is up here as well. I mean, Terry Bombard, he ended up working his way up to where he is, being one of the first drivers up inside of the top 10 to come to pit road to start that cycle at pit stop. So he took advantage of the fresher tires. So, we've got about 3-4 drivers up here that maybe we weren't originally thinking of. I asked you at the beginning of the broadcast, is there anybody that's going to be able to challenge the 18? We're starting to see those challengers emerge.
Yeah, we are, especially as this run goes on. I mean, the one that driver that's been dominant this whole run, I honestly believe, is at 13 to Dave Nelson. But we've seen Terry Bombard and Jeremy Jeffries. They're wanting it. Jeremy's worked his way all the way back up here to the top 5. He's running 3rd. We're about to go back to green. And I don't know, Seth. I think we got to make one more pit stop at least here.
Yep, one more pit stop on the horizon for these drivers. The question is, do they make it under green or under caution? We'll be finding that out momentarily as Melson gets the run into turn 1. He'll take the top spot. Boy, Jeremy Jeffries looked out of shape there going into the first corner.
Very sketchy on this opening lap on these restarts. Tires cooled down. There's hardly any grip at that point. You got to get some warmth in there to go somewhere, and you don't want to overdrive it because if you overdrive it and push it too much, you're going to slide up and screw yourself out in the entry of the corner.
Dave Melson in that 13, I was just looking. He is third in the overall championship points, not mathematically eligible to win the championship, but he's just looking for his first victory of the season here. 3 runner-up finishes this season, has never won, and right now he's led the most laps of 55, looking to lead that most important one. As you said, he's been dominant here tonight, kept that 13 car out in front for a majority of this race.
Yeah, but the question is how much longer is he going to be able to hold that? We see Robert Balcom, he's kind of backed off. He's not up there at the top 2 at the moment. He's just taking his time back here and riding his line. And I'm just really curious about this stuff. If we look at Robert's line is a little bit different than what Jeremy Jeffries is running.
I'm a little worried too about Dave Melson's line. We're watching him. He drives it deep into 3, lets it ride up the corner in the center, and then drives it deep again off of 4. We call that arcing the corner, but I'm just not necessarily certain that's the kind of line you want to run here at Phoenix, because that's going to wear your tires out more.
And him holding that bottom all the way around in 1, that's just throwing off speed in my opinion. I mean, you could be up high and you dive it down, you let off a little bit, you wait for the car to catch and then dive it down, but he's driving so far up. Terry Bombard is going to be right here at his back bumper off of 3 and 4.
Got McClure making a pass on Frank Rivard. That's going to be for 6th. It's back up at the front. It's Chevy versus Ford here. And Dave Melson continuing to hold the race lead. Whoa! Terry pushed up there off of 2, brushed the wall. That's going to lose him some time.
And they're pretty much single file all the way back to where Bernie Mobbs is. Bernie Mobbs running in the 12th position. Top 13s basically even themselves out. The battle right now, it looks like Stefan Martel is going to go higher up. Ronald Luzier is going to get that position quite easily. I mean, you slide up, they back off so much trying to catch it so they don't cause an issue, Seth. So you really got to hit your marks carefully as you see Dante Ricky a little bit higher up. Chuck McClure starting to put some pressure on that 84.
Yeah, we saw that incident there with Stefan Martel off of turn 4, and whichever way you approach that exit of turn 4, whether you hit the wall or you lift to avoid hitting the wall, it's going to translate to drivers going around you that have been able to actually make the corner better, and so that's why we saw Stefan Martel lose a spot. And
we're seeing 17 like push to the point of where he's trying to get around Dante, but Seth, going back up at the front, Dave Nelson, Terry Bombard, they've got a gap on 3rd place Jeremy Jeffries. Do you think they're pushing it really hard up there?
That's what I was just going to bring up. I'm a little worried about this. Now, while it looks good right now to the spectators seeing this huge gap from the top 2 back to 3rd place, at the same time, I think you're absolutely right. I think the 13 and the 10 are really pushing it right now. Remember, Jeremy Jeffries had to slowly work his way through the field, so he's got some experience in tire conservation, and we know that Robert Balcom, in every race that we see, he's always really good at tire conservation. I don't necessarily think, even though these 2 drivers are enjoying about a second and a half between themselves back to 3rd, I don't think this is going to work out for them in the long run. I think they're going to get reeled in pretty quickly.
I'm back here watching stuff on Martel. He's continuing to slide back, Seth. He just cannot seem to get his car under the position that he needs to. He's going in the middle quite often in these corners, and he's just sliding up so much that he's having to back off so he doesn't run and hit the wall. And he's losing another position right now to the 63 of Andre Rayum going into turn 3 and 4. He's way off track.
Gracious. There's no grip up there whatsoever for the 57 of Stefan Martel. And remember, too, on our first green flag run that we... Oh, wow, I think that was that Elliott back there that slammed the wall off of 4? But remember that on our first green flag run, 2 drivers that faded outside of the top 10 as the run went on. Stefan Martel was 1. Chuck McClure was the other, and you were talking about him trying to put pressure here on Dante Ricky for position. Oh, we almost had a wreck right there around the 8th position between Lucet and Doug Cady.
Battling going around pretty much near half to the back of the field, but back up at near the front, Seth. It's just, we touched on it a moment ago. Melson and Bombard. I mean, if you remember, I'm not sure. It might have been Melson last night that said after that Texas run about the tires. Remember, using up a little bit too much tires. I mean, it just seems like he's pushing it so much to where his line is pushing him up. I'm not sure whether it's the entry of how fast he's entering the corner. We see Jeremy Jeffries get a little bit of that apron and able to hang on to it. But I'm not sure if I'm not sure if Dave is pushing it too hard in the corner and overdriving the entries here. That's causing him to push up and lose so much time to Terry Bombard. And I think Terry's just pushing, trying to catch him to pass him. And you've got Jeremy Jeffries back here just relaxing, slowly, methodically closing in lap after lap, waiting for them to use all their tire wear.
Yeah, Dave Melson, that last time by was actually the fastest car on the track. We'll wait and see about this time around. That time he ran a really slow lap. Yeah, I mean, he ran a good lap that last time around, but the last 2 or 3 laps, third and fourth place have been the fastest cars on the track. That last time by, Jeffries and Robert Balcom ran 29 O's. Melson and Bombard ran 29 4s and 3s. So we're starting to see they're starting to get reeled in. And there you see, I mean, you had Melson and Bombard in the same shot with nobody else moments ago. All of a sudden, Jeremy Jeffries, Robert Balcom, they're now in the same shot with the 10.
Yeah, they're closing in on that 10 real fast and real quickly. I wouldn't be surprised to see that they're right there at Terry Bombard in the next couple laps.
Bombard's gotten the wall at least twice that I've counted here under this run, trying to get up there and challenge Dave Melson for the race lead. But again, that time by 29 1s for Jeffries and Balcom. Dave Melson ran a 29 3. So that's about 0.2 of a second they are gaining on that 13 car every lap.
I mean, they didn't pit that far away from where Robert Balcom and Jeremy Jeffries and Dante when they came into pit. They pit maybe a lap or two early, and I don't think that actually had any effect. As we see them passing around Jim Glaude, Dave putting a little bit of a cushion over the 10 of Terry Bombard. But honestly, as much as I like seeing that 13 lead and actually do well, which, we've been waiting for him to get a win in this series for a while. I mean, not just this series, but overall. He keeps doing well, but always so close. He's basically looking like a Mark Martin right now. He's right there, but he just can't ever get it done. And I'm hopeful that he'll get it done, but it just seems like he's pushing it too much, trying to hold on to this lead.
Jeremy Jeffries, 11th in the points coming to this one. A 6-time winner in the Winston Cup Series, making the pass there on Terry Bombard. Robert Balcom looking to take the 3rd position, and now it's only about 4, maybe 5 car length separation between the top 2, and I'm almost wondering if maybe Dave Melson, if it was all part of his strategy to push it early on, trying to get as big a gap as he possibly could, knowing that the 8 and the 8 team were going to be better on the long run.
I think he probably was hoping for a caution, too.
Yeah.
Because now, Seth, we're on lap 96 out of 140. We know that the fuel is about 45 to 50. We're getting close to where they can come in and pit and they can make it for the rest of the way on fuel if we go green to the end.
Yeah, fuel window is open, and I was kind of wondering back during the first round of green flag pit stops. I mean, does anybody think about short pitting or coming to pit road a little bit earlier? Because you run the risk a caution could come out. You'd have to take the wave around and lose all the track position you had prior to making that pit stop. I mean, are we looking at the same scenario for these drivers, all trying to stretch it the furthest they can, come down and take on the lowest amount of fuel load?
Well, I mean, or do they want to do what we did over at Dover, make sure we have a set of tires saved?
Jeffrey's now going to close up the gap even more here on Dave Melson. And for Dave Melson, what he's going to have to try and do is close down that inside line. I think he backed up his corner a little bit there through 3 and 4 to make sure he could hook that yellow line off of turn 4 and take away an opportunity for Jeffries to make a pass. I think right now for Jeremy Jeffries, if he's going to get around that 13, he's got to do one of two things. Either he's got to try on that outside line, or he's got to try and get a better exit off the corner, stick the 13 to the outside line, allow him not to defend going into either 1 or 3.
And when we see Balcom, he's running a little bit higher up. Watch Dave slide up and watch. I said Balcom. I do apologize. The black cars, the black cars. I meant Jeffries. We see that Dave was right there. Jeremy was a little bit higher up in the corner. He waits for that 13 to slide up, and then he gets a little bit of a gas to it to hold it down there. And as we see, there he goes. He's got a nose underneath Dave Melson. He's going to wait and make the move right here in turn 3.
He even used the rumble strip there on the back straightaway to stay
to back off.
Wow, man, I thought he was going straight up into the 13 for a moment there as he was hard on the brakes to woe that baby up.
But like I was saying, though, it's like we saw Dave, the way he was running his line here, and as Jeremy Jeffries officially goes to the top of the board, we saw that Dave was right in the middle. He swung low. He kept pushing up higher. We saw Jeremy go into the corner a little bit higher up than what Dave was to back off a little bit earlier so he can arc his car down, catch it on that apex, and then just drive off and get the run.
Well, Dave Melson has locked up the bonus point or bonus points, depending on what the point system is, for most laps led here tonight. 74 circuits at the front, so nobody will be able to best that as Robert Balcom now moves into second. Just to update as well, for those that are just tuning in, we may be crowning a champion here tonight in the overall series for the RTG Winston Cup Series. Dante Ricky came into this race with a 166-point lead over Bernie Mobbs. Only had to finish 16th here tonight to clinch that championship. Oh, gracious. Did we have someone? Oh, okay. It was Benoit Plord coming to pit road. I thought someone had wrecked off of turn
Chuck
4.
McClure's coming down the pit road, too. I was about to comment that Chuck McClure and Ron Luzier in the 62, they were battling a little bit back and forth for position. We saw the 62 get a run on Chuck, and Chuck went back to the inside and got back around. Benoit Plord on pit road, as you mentioned. Another driver that was on pit road as well, I believe. I don't know if it was just the pace car or not, but we were saying it a little earlier. We saw that the window was open. Terry Bombard's on pit road, Seth.
Yeah, fuel window's open. Here comes some more drivers to pit lane. Dave Robbins and Doug Cady. So these are drivers that are electing to come to pit road when the fuel window has opened up. Most other drivers, if they're going to try and stretch it, we won't be seeing them on pit road for another 20 laps or so. Jeffrey Elliott is in, as well as Stefan Martel.
Now the question is, do you want to stay out and basically try to gain position, or do you want to pit and try to get that fresh rubber so you can gain time? I mean, if you pit later, you'll have fresh rubber. You might go a lap down, but you'll have that fresher rubber. And I don't know. What do you think? I mean, if it were me, I'd stay out as long as I could, honestly.
Yeah, here the big question is how many laps are going to be left with you out there on those older tires after all the other drivers you tried to leapfrog are going to be out there on fresher tires, and the number would be somewhere around 20 laps to go. We saw Terry Bombard did gain a lot of positions under the first cycle of pit stops with coming to pit lane early, so I think he'll be able to work his way back up to around the 4th position where he was running, maybe even take the race lead. The question is, if we remain caution-free, would he have enough of a gap with those fresh tires to be able to hold off Jeremy Jeffries and Robert Balcom when they eventually come to pit road for their final stop of the night?
Well, Dave Melson, he's back here in 3rd, and he's lost a lot of ground to the top two, Jeremy Jeffries and Robert Balcom. He's almost a little over 2 seconds back at this point. I'm wondering how much longer it's going to be before we see that 13 come down the pit road, because the 13 and the 10, when we had that last cycle, 13 and the 10, they were the ones battling for that top spot, Seth.
Dave Melson. Oh, what happened to Jeffrey Elliott? That car just turned to the right, straight up into the wall. It didn't spin, but it almost kind of looked like, you know how a driver will have like a wheel disconnect or something, and the thing just turns off a different direction? That's almost what it looked like just happened to him.
All right, Seth, just a heads up. I am going to go back and check that out real quick, so I will not be under the live screen, okay?
Okay, that was really strange.
You said it was Jeffrey Elliott, right?
Yeah, Jeffrey Elliott up in, I believe it was turn 1. And it's fortunate that that car did not spin around. Fortunately, the wall kind of saved him and kept him straight. But, boy, that's one of those heart-jumping moments. And there's another one. There's Robert Balcom. Almost runs in the back of Robbie Nices, who decided to go to the inside rather than the outside.
Oh, what I saw from Jeffrey Elliott was he was really fast in the turn 1. And as he went down to start slowing down, his car got a little bit sideways. The back end started kicking out, and he overcorrected it and went right up into the wall, so trying to catch it.
And that was right in front
of Dante
points
Ricky.
Leader. Yeah, exactly. Imagine if Dante had been caught up in that one. That would have had huge championship implications. Would have more than likely, with the fact that we still have 22 of our original 25 drivers running on the lead lap, would have more than likely extended the championship battle into next week, as here comes Dave Melson in the 13, finally going to make his pit stop.
Bernie Mobbs posted down that he was pitting us up as well, and there is a message that Robbie Nice has put down saying, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. Oh, wait. Jeffries is pitting.
The race leader is coming to pit road. Let's see if Robert Balcom's going to come down with him.
Pit as well.
Like all top three. No, Robert Balcom, look at that. He looked like he was going to be coming to pit road behind the 8. Decides to swing out around. He'll stay out an extra lap.
John Godfrey, Bob Dixon, Frank Rivard exit pit road. I don't know how much longer that 018 is going to stay out there, Seth.
Oh, Robert Balcom has led 13 laps here tonight. He's going to at least lead this one. And is he pitting this time? Yes, he is. Wow, again, comes flying in. That's the second time he's done that. If you saw,
I do want to point out one thing that happened to Dante Ricky on that pit stall. He overshot his stall and had to back up.
That's going to lose him some time. We'll have to see if that translates into positions or
He
not.
comes out. He just came out of pit road right behind the 13 of Dave Nelson. So I don't think he's going. He lost a little bit of time, but not too much because he's right where he needs to be, right near that 13.
Race lead, I think, currently is being held by the 63 of Andre Rayum.
Robert
Currently scored in
Balcom coming
second.
down pit road, coming out of pit road on the track now.
I think Rayum, when he comes around and hits the line, this will be his first lap led of the night, and indeed that is the case. Mitch
Jeremy
Bombard
Jeff-
still staying out as well.
Jeremy, yeah, remember Terry Bombard was already in. He was one of the first ones to pit, Seth. Remember?
Yep.
And with that being said, it's a little bit ways back to Jeremy Jeffries, who is out in front of Robert Balcom after the pit stops.
Yeah, but it's not much, though. That last time by, Terry Bombard only had about 1.2 seconds between himself and Jeremy Jeffries. With the fact that we're going to have still more than 20 laps to go, I don't know if that's enough time for Bombard to be able to hold off Jeffries here the longer this run goes on.
Well, what I'm more concerned about right now is we know they can make it to the end on field, but now with the tires, how aggressive, knowing that this is the late stretch here, so how aggressive are you going to be to gain positions? We know Dante's just running, trying to get consistent finishes, so Dante's just going to ride and being, trying to hold on to where he's at. But what about these other drivers who are really trying to win this race, like Dave Nelson, Terry Bombard, Jeremy Jeffries, Robert Balcom, Chuck McClure? Are they going to be really aggressive, trying to push really hard with these fresh tires? I mean, would you try to save what you got a little bit to the end?
No, saving is out the window, I think, at this point, because if you think about it, too, we're not necessarily racing to the conclusion of lap 140. We're pretty much racing to the conclusion of maybe about lap 136, because there is the possibility lingering out there that this race could end under yellow. So you've got to go out there now, and you've basically got to lay down what would be equivalent to qualifying lap times.
And just to touch on the thing being, you said lap 36, we've got quite a few drivers a lap down right now. Jeffrey Elliott just came into pit road to pit, and you've got Jim Glouth 4 laps down, Sly Jones 2 laps down, and a few drivers, Robbie Nice, Benoit Poirier, Randy Waugh, Mitch Bombard, Jeffrey Elliott, like I just stated, he's a lap down now. So, yeah, I mean, unless we get a whole bunch of cautions, it ain't going to happen anytime soon. We will have that 36 mark as where we need to be at for this race to end. I think 35 or 36, probably.
Yep, Terry Bombard out in front. He's looking for what I believe is his 3rd win of the season. He won earlier on this year at New Hampshire and at Talladega, but you can visibly see that gap is closing up. There's a difference of about 4 laps.
It is gone. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's about, 4 laps difference, I think, between Terry's tires and Jeremy Jeffries' tires, and Jeffries has obviously proven as well. He's got the better car on the long run, but Robert Balcom's right behind him as well, so this thing ain't over. I mean, Jeffries may have the stronger car currently, but Robert Balcom's waiting in the wings.
Yeah, we see Terry running a little bit higher up, and Jeremy's able to arc it down a little bit more and get that run off the corner, slides up just a slight tad bit. See what happens when they go in turn 1 here. Looks like Terry's going to hold that middle and down a little bit lower. Jeremy drove it a little bit lower in that corner and to make it stick. So, like you said, they're using all what they got now. They're going. And we've seen Jeremy run a little bit higher up and then arc it down. Now he's running that bottom.
And we have to remember, too, that these drivers here in the Winston Cup 98 mod, they are running CTS physics, which is why I think we saw Jeffries using the draft be able to get right up to the back bumper of Terry Bombard going into 3.
Looks like he's trying to make the pass here going into one. I don't know if he's going to be able to get it. No. Looks like Terry had a little bit more speed in that corner, and Jeremy's going to back up. He's going to hit that apron.
Whoa!
Oh, he got out of shape bad right there.
And that's going to open the door for Robert Balcom to maybe come around the outside. Now Jeffries back to the inside of Bombard. They'll carry this into 3. Whew, gracious. Terry Bombard chopping off the nose there going into the third corner.
Jeffrey Elliott's back on pit road. Just to touch on the 056 for a moment.
Jeffrey Elliott, I don't know if this is a scheduled pit stop for him or not. As there's a slower car up ahead there. That's Cy Jones getting out of the way of this three-way battle for the top spot. Jeffries is clear for the top spot. Balcom moves to second. Now they'll carry this battle into 3.
Terry lightly got the wall right before turn 3 as well, and now he's going to lose a little bit of speed off of that. I don't know how hard he hit, but the top 2 stuff, they're pulling away now.
I was really surprised that Dave Melson didn't gain more out of coming to pit road early as he did. He was back around 6th. He's now worked his way up to the 4th position. We got a 3-way battle back here from 5th back to 7th, actually back to 8th. That's Dante Ricky, Frank Rivard, Chuck McClure, and Ronald Lucet.
Now I'm looking at the 056. He's still on pit road stuff, so it's not a scheduled stop unless they're repairing damage or something. His car's at an angle here, and I don't really see much of anything going on with that 056. So I'm not sure if he stepped away or AFK. There's nothing in chat log suggesting that he did, but he's currently 5 laps down, labeled last on the cars that are currently out there on the track.
Jeffrey Elliott looks like
he's retired.
So he's out. Looks like he'll finish 22nd here tonight as this battle for the race lead continues on. And whoo, Robert Balcom may be driving it deeper into the corner than I've seen him do all night long there as he let it really ride there into turn 3.
Meanwhile, back here at the around the 5th position, 5th is being held by Frank Rivara, our championship leader. Dante Ricky is trying to get that from the 35, not pushing it too much. He's just riding around. I think Dante is still just conserving a little bit. It doesn't look like he's pushing it, diving it down too hard in the corners. He's just backing off a little bit earlier than what these other drivers are in front of him.
You know, it's interesting too because if I'm looking here at our current
Bombard into pit road. Sorry, Seth. Go ahead.
Yeah, Terry Bombard. Oh, it looks like he may be parking it. Terry Bombard in the 10. Like he will not be finishing out this race. That looks like
out.
Yeah. Boy, that's tough. He was en route for a 3rd place finish here. Yeah, he wouldn't have won the race, but he'd have gotten some pretty good points. And just looking at the running order right now, there's really only 2 drivers that are going to be looking good points-wise as far as the chase is concerned going into next week's race at Rockingham, and that is Dante Ricky, who is currently running in the 5th position, and Dave Melson, who's running in 3rd. Everybody else, Bernie Mobbs, Bob Dixon, Benoit Flores, Cy Jones, we haven't really been seeing them up here inside of the top 10 most of the night.
Yeah, they were really aggressive to begin with, and it just didn't as the race went on. They started going single file, and it started spanning out a little bit. And it's given us a lot of good racing. Don't get us wrong. It's just that now that they've eased themselves out, we get a nice long green flag run, and we get to see who's got the better car in the long run, Seth.
Dave Melson making his way around Jim Gloud. Gloud is, despite the fact that car is all crunched up, still going to be finishing, looks like, around the 21st position here tonight. Frank Rivard right now in 4th. Dante Ricky currently in the 5th position. And another driver back here that's had a very strong run. He almost wrecked a couple of times. How about Doug Cady? Good run for him in that 8th position. That Hooters Chevrolet been very consistent tonight, has been up in top of the 10, if I can say English, has been up inside of the top 10 pretty much this entire evening.
127 out of 140, Seth. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how hard they're all pushing. Their tires are starting to fall off a little bit back here at the back behind Robert Balcom and Jeffries.
Yeah, Jeffrey's now going to have to start dealing with some traffic. That was Andre Rieume, who was the last car in the lead lap in 14th. Stefan Martel, 13th place car, just up ahead as well. And just looking at the lap times, you can't really gauge much off of that between Jeffries and Balcom because Balcom's getting a little bit of a draft down these straightaways. So he's running about maybe a half a tenth faster than Jeremy Jeffries, but both cars for the moment seem somewhat equal. It's going to come down here in the closing stages to which lines they run. I'm going to ask you, Jess. I mean, closing on 10 laps to go. You're leading the race here at Phoenix. Which position do you want to be in? Do you want to be the one deciding which line you're taking and forcing somebody else to do something different as the leader? Or do you want to be in Balcom's shoes, being able to kind of be the hunter in this case?
Well, in my case, though, I mean, Jeremy's proven he's got a really good car. He's able to hold his line a little, not much, but it's almost nearly zero point 0.3 gap between him and Robert. I'd rather be in Robert's shoes because if I see Jeremy start running a different line, like we saw with Dave Nelson and Terry Bombard earlier, that line that they start using, you can use it to your advantage and try to gain a little bit of time. Like, just be patient, just be patient. Yeah, we're around 10 laps to go now, unfortunately, but over time, the question is Jeremy going to start pushing up? And when he pushes up, and if he does, can that 018 get that bottom working for him to get that drive in and drive off?
We
Oh,
know.
Andre Ray about hit the quarter panel of the 57 Stephon Martel there. He had to hit the brakes not to tap him.
And that's actually a battle for position between those two for the 13th spot that almost went awry. We know when we interview Robert Balcom post race, a lot of times he's going to victory lane here on broadcast we've done on FRN, and he says he watches our broadcast while he's racing. Well, Robert, if you're planning on making a move, go time is 1:36, buddy, because he's got about 3.5 car lengths right now to make up on Jeremy Jeffries.
Well, we've always heard that Robert listens to our broadcast while he races, so he knows what the strategies are going on all around him. So he's got to do something very soon. Dante's there dogging the 35 of Frank still back here in for the third position.
I'm not sure if he would be willing to force the issue or not. Dave Melson was in third. He's now dropped back to the 5th spot. So while he did gain some track position with the fresh tires pitting early on the short run, we're starting to see that the tires are starting to go away on the long run, dropping 2 spots to Rivard, who's now up to 3rd, and Ricky, who is now up to 4th. I mean, Dante only had to come into this race and finish in the 16th position, and he's going to currently, where he's running, finish head and shoulders above that.
You know, I want to give a call out to two drivers that we haven't really talked about too much today, Seth. Ronald Luzier, look at what happened. He was involved in a little earlier scuffle, and he's sitting here running 6th, strong all season. We've seen that, and he's sitting here running top 10, out just barely outside the top 5. And look at that 96 of Dave Robbins. He had a lot of unfortunate stuff happen a little earlier, a little bit of side-to-side warp too, and he's running right here in the top 10 at the end of this race as well. It's just about patience and hitting your marks and just carefully, methodically, just driving the track, not worrying about where everyone else is, just worry about where you are on the track. And it worked really nicely for that 96 to get back up in the top 10.
See, that's the thing about these type of tracks where it's one of those kind of tire killers. It's much like what we saw for our finishing results in the top 10 in our broadcast last night for the Bare Bones Racing Series at Texas. You have your drivers up there, maybe inside of the top 5. They're your strong cars of the night. But then the latter half of the top 10 is filled in with drivers like Dave Robbins, who have just been out there logging the laps, minding their business, preserving their tires, taking advantage of other drivers' mistakes, and going to be salvaging a good finish out of it as a result.
Such a great run for some of these drivers that I mean, we don't really get a chance to talk too much about. Like we said, we got Dave Robbins up here. John Godfrey just went a lap down, so only the top 10 are currently labeled on the lead lap with Bernie Mobbs 25 seconds back. We've got other drivers up here like Frank Rivard doing well. We mentioned Doug Cady. I mean, these drivers just took their time and methodically, patiently worked themselves up. But now, Seth, 137 of 140. It's coming down to the end between Jeffries and Balcom. See what Balcom's going to do.
Yeah, Balcom, the problem for him right now is where he's encountering the slower traffic. Right there, you see he's encountered Robbie Nisus going into the corner. I'm sure he wanted to take a wider entry into turn 1 than what he did, having to pass that 54 machine, which gave him that inside line. But boy, he got a heck of a run there out of turn 2. This ain't over yet. Robert Balcom's closing up the gap between himself and Jeremy Jeffries, who pushes up a little bit there in 3 and 4.
And those small little mistakes is what Robert's looking at. It's a small little error, but I don't know if he's going to have enough time. We're coming around. We got 2 to go, Seth, and 2 laps to go before Dante Ricky gets this championship clinched.
Currently in the 4th position is the 84. That time around off of turn 2, Jeffries was a lot better as Balcom lost some ground. Jeremy Jeffries, not sure he would care if the caution came out at this point because I think he's got enough of a car to be able to hold off Balcom here on the final lap as he will see the white flag in the flagman's hand. There is a slower car, Benoit Plord, up ahead.
I
Hopefully won't be an issue.
I'm not sure based on the telemetry stuff, but on my game, listening to Robert Balcom's car, it almost sounded like he went from fourth gear down to third in turn 3 and 4.
Might have been trying to see if he could get that extra bite off the corner here, but not within striking distance through turn
Right
3.
there, it went down again.
Oh, he's not going to be close enough, I don't think, though, as Jeremy Jeffries from 30th place is going to win here tonight at Phoenix International Raceway. A slow, methodical move to the front and captures yet another checkered flag here in the Winston Cup Series, and 4th position will do it. This early on in the season, with 3 races remaining, Dante Ricky is officially your RTG Winston Cup Series champion.
Yeah, it's a really, really well fought battle all the way to the end. Dante just taking his time, methodically being consistent all season long, like we talked about. Didn't have to have the most wins or nothing, just getting that fortunate because he just keeps finishing and finishing, not worrying about everyone else, just riding his race, just like what we said about Balcom, what he likes to do. And Dante comes home with a top 5, enough to catch it over Bernie Mobbs, who finishes 10th, unfortunately. But Dante had to finish 17th or higher. I'm not sure whether he led that lap, that one extra lap or not, Seth. I don't recall him actually leading at the line at any point, but still, 17th or higher, and he came home fourth, so he already clinched what he needed to do, and that was to stay out of trouble and run consistent.
Yep, to answer your question, Dante did not lead a lap. He actually came down pit road around the same laps as Jeremy Jeffries and Robert Balcom did, so he never got the opportunity to get that bonus point, but did not need it here this evening. And going to make things interesting as well heading into next week at Rockingham, which I believe is the final elimination race for the chase, because of the remaining 6 drivers that came into this race still in contention for the chase championship, only 3 of them managed to finish up inside the top 10 here today at Phoenix. As you saw Jeremy Jeffries doing his burnouts for the race win, Dante Ricky here in front of the Phoenix fans getting to do some burnouts as your champion.
And we touched on the finishing results of Jeremy Jeffries, Balcom getting the top 2. Frankfurt Barcom's on third. Dante, as we mentioned, clinching the championship tonight at Phoenix with the overall title, coming home in fourth. Dave Mellison finishing 5th, rounds up the top 5, and Dave Mellison once again, staying up there in the top 5, dominating, but at the very end, just didn't have enough. I don't know whether it was grip or if it was just pit strategy that pretty much threw him out, because we saw him and Terry, they were using up their stuff real early on, Seth.
Yeah, led the most laps tonight, though, did Dave Mellison, 74 of the 140 laps, led by that 13 machine. Ronald Lucet, Chuck McClure, Doug Cady, Dave Robbins, and Bernie Mobbs, your top 10 were the only drivers to finish this race on the lead lap. And, Dante Ricky came in as far as the chase points, the points leader. Bernie Mobbs was 11 points back, so he'll lose a little bit of ground there. But really, there's not as much a battle for the points lead there as there is the wanting to finish inside of the top 3 to advance into that final round of the chase. And the one driver that's definitely going to make some strides in that regard is Dave Melson. So I think right now, the top 3 drivers in the playoffs would be Ricky, Mobbs, and Melson. That would leave Dixon, Plord, and Jones having to try and point their way in next week at Rockingham.
Well, we saw a really good race tonight. I mean, that it started out really aggressive. We saw a few cautions happen here and there, Seth, and then they finally got into a long run, and we saw that we were looking at these drivers pitting short, and then all of a sudden these other drivers, Robert Balcom, Jeremy Jeffries, Dante Ricky, these guys who were going the whole distance, like almost nearly running out their fuel, at the very end they slowly started working their way back up to this group in the top 5, and it paid off in the end for them.
Yeah, one of these type of races, when you come to a track like Phoenix, it's all about patience and all about preserving the tires. And Jeremy Jeffries and Robert Balcom, from the drop of the green flag, really did that, and that's why they finished where they did. Jeremy Jeffries, though, I mean, Tremendous credit to him. As we said, I don't think he turned any laps in practice. That's why he wasn't able to take a time in qualifying and started this race back from the
Actually,
23rd position.
Jeremy Jeffries in happy hour turned a 28.5, and he was the third quickest in happy hour. But official practice, I don't think he was able to do anything much.
Right. So that's why he had to start towards the rear of the field. And man, 23rd
Actually,
to first.
Actually, he did do a couple laps, and he was seventh in practice. But I mean, that run that he had, starting way in the back like he did toward the back, it labeled him as 25th starting because obviously myself and the Flatcaster, not on track, etc. That would basically move him up a couple of positions. But started way in the back, comes home with the win. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better day.
No, gutsy call there too. Not lay down a qualifying lap time. We heard Dante Ricky earlier. He said, I want to qualify up at the front. I want to stay up at the front. I want to stay ahead of the mayhem. Jeremy Jeffries had to work his way through 3 early cautions to make his way up there to the front. So a gutsy call that paid off for him to be able to slice and dice his way through traffic en route to a victory here tonight. Why don't we get a word here with some of our top 3 finishers and top 3 run here tonight, a top 5 run for the number 35 of Frank Rivard. Hey, Frank, it's Justin Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir. How was the race?
Well, it was definitely exciting from our end. Typical Phoenix, where it came down to who preserved their tires the best there on the long run. Looked like you were one of those drivers able to make some ground up late in these runs. If you'd been able to have a little bit better starting track position, did you have anything, do you think, to maybe battle up there with the 8 and the 18 for this race win?
I didn't have a lot of time to battle with them to see what was their level tonight, but I know Jeremy passed me once, and I was following him and said, "Well, I'm gonna let him go a bit and save my tire." Then a little bit later, I the last pit stop, I got fresh tire, came back on the track, but I got blocked with 2 laps car on the backstretch and have to wait behind them. And yeah, that was fun. I was following Dante the whole race and saving my tire.
We ended up looking at your statistics coming to this one. And, prior to the start of October, you didn't have a top 5 here in the series, but now this is your third top 5 in the last 4 races. I was noticing that you were only one of 3 drivers that were out there running long green flag runs during practice. Did that help you at all here during race conditions to know just how hard you could push your car in terms of wearing down the tires?
Of course, that's the way to go. I saw a lot of guys tonight. They are running up front, and after 20 laps, they don't have tire. They are all gone, so they have to pit, and they are losing position like that. But the trick is to be patient and save your tire. You see, I think my fastest lap was lap 54 and 111.
If Jess has any questions here for you, Frank.
Well, Frank, we saw last night in the other series that ran the trucks that you were up near the front doing well, and tonight you were in the top 10, mainly the top 7 this whole time. I mean, does this really boost your confidence going into tomorrow's night's Aero 88 races, the Thursday night race, and then following next week, hitting those races as well in this series?
No, not really. Well, I'm pretty good running top 10 all the time, but I have bad luck with me all the time. I get spun or push into wall. Well, not really lucky. So hope the luck will be with me for the next few races.
Well, we certainly hope so too here, Frank. A great run for you here this evening. 3rd place podium run here tonight at Phoenix. Your 3rd top 5 finish in the last 4 races here as well. So a great streak for you, a great consistency. We're going to now let you do some shout outs.
Thank you, guys. So I was really happy. My sponsor, Legend Boat from Canada, they're great and love it. So see you next time, guys.
That's Frank Rivard. He carries a 3rd place finish into Rockingham next week. Let's go down and see if we can get our 2nd place finisher, Robert Balcom. Hey, Robert, it's Justin Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yeah, 10-4. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, like we said, we know that you watched the broadcast and everything, and we were saying go times around lap 136. We saw you really pushing it there, especially through 3 and 4. What little bit more did you need to get back up to the bumper of that 8 car?
Clean air. Clean air was just so big here. It didn't matter. You could be 2, 3 tenths slower, but and be out front. And it was clean air is just so tight behind somebody. I was trying to get my nose lower than him, higher than him, just to get some air.
Robert, I wanted to point out a couple of things real quick. The first thing, we saw you up near the front for a little bit, and you came down to pit road, and Seth and I, we weren't sure. Seth thinks that you made a slight bit of contact and you lost time. I saw you hit the brakes and try to hesitate not to turn into the pit stall because you had, I think, Doug, Katie, and Bernie right there. So you're inside there, leaving pit road while you were trying to come in. Did you make any contact with Bernie?
No, I wasn't ready. They just pulled out. I wasn't ready for it. I mean, they apologized afterwards. It kind of pretty much killed me on that. But this part of it, I didn't want. It was better just to stop, not make contact. I figured I could make it up. And when we came out, we were like eighth or ninth, and I was just riding, just saving my tires for that long run. I was gonna hope we had. But good, congratulations, Jeremy. He did a good job. Like I said, it's gonna matter whoever got out front there at the end. We were pretty even.
You know, earlier on in the race, we saw. I commented on how you and Jeremy were running with Dave Melson and Terry Bombard in front of you. They were running a little bit higher, and it seemed like you started running a little bit higher than what they were running, and then you were able to arc it a little bit quicker to the inside and get that run off. I mean, was that your whole game plan the whole race, was to try to wait till you get to the back bumper, wait for them to slide up, and then cut up underneath them each time by making them make the mistake of driving in too hard?
Yeah, I don't use any brakes here, so I was just rolling out early. So I was just kind of letting it drift up and kind of use it what they call a diamond and let it turn coming off. And plus being a little bit higher than them gave me a little air, and then turning under them it made it easier.
You know, one other thing that I was noticing there, Robert, was you were maybe one of the most aggressive drivers on pit road entry, slamming there on the brakes. We saw a lot of tire smoke out of the front tires. I think you may have hit the identical spot of the braking zone there. Both times looked like you hit the skid marks the second time that you'd laid down the first time. I mean, obviously, there's an art to hot pitting, but was there any point you felt maybe you came in a little bit too hot and might have run the risk of a penalty?
No, maybe you haven't seen Sean Prime Pit. He makes me look like I'm going slow. No, I mean, Jeremy did the same thing. You got to get off in there. You just kind of got to watch your tires and see how much tire you got left, and kind of know where it's at. But I mean, it makes up a world of a difference. I've lost so many races in the past by guys that was hot pitting that just watching over and over, learning how to do it. I finally I guess I picked it up pretty good, but like I said, there's a quite a few drivers out there that can make me look slow.
Well, Robert, a great run for you here tonight. You started pole, you led some laps, you finished second place here this evening. A shot at the win there in the closing stages as well. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
Oh yeah, first thing I want to do is thank y'all for coming over here and giving us opportunity to be out there for other drivers to see us, and of course, Rolling Thunder, RTG, they give us a like I say, every interview, great place to race. Finishing top 5 over here, you accomplished something. Shout out to Jeremy. I know he got to start in the back last night. Come to the front, it's fun. I did last night. I passed more of the cars last night, Jeremy. Haha. But main thing I really want to do is, on a serious note, I want to give a shout out to my wife, Jennifer. She's been battling health issues, and like I said, it's been kind of hard on us. But I just want to know, no matter what, I'm in here racing, out there working. I'm thinking about her all the time. So, but yeah, appreciate everything.
That's Robert
I
Balcom.
do I do want to point out one thing before we send him on his way tonight, Seth.
Okay.
Robert, before this race started, when you came in and you were on the pole, I said, "Well, Seth, I guess Robert's gonna win again." So I guess me saying that might have jinxed you.
Oh yeah, and hey, like I said, I said last night, 10, 12 drivers in here can win any on a given night. Like I said, finish top 5. That's a great accomplishment. So, like I said, great job to Jeremy. He did what he needed to do to be out front, and that's where you need to be at the end. So he did a great job to him.
Well, Robert, you pick up your Second place finish here tonight, another top 5 run, and might possibly move into the top 10 in the overall point standings because of this as well. The points were pretty close there from about 9th on down to 14th, so we'll wait and see about that. But great run for you here tonight. Congrats on a second place run, and good luck to you, of course, next week as well as you guys head to Rockingham.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm surprised. I don't even think I've ran half the races over here. But one last shout out. Congratulations to Dante. Great guy, great driver, and he accomplished it. And now I'm getting yelled at in the background because I forgot to get, and I'm going to smack myself when I get off here. I forgot to give a shout out to my little girl, Caitlin. She's back here. Now she's mad. So now I got to go in here and try to buy something to make it up to her. So, KK, I know you're listening. Daddy loves you, and I apologize.
Well, that's Robert Balcom. Brings it home second place here tonight at Phoenix to the guy that we're going to now interview down in Victory Lane, and that is Jeremy Jeffries, who was able to work his way from the back to the front. And Jeremy, I mean, man, you started this race from the 23rd position. We know how difficult it is not only to pace yourself, but to pass at a track like this, especially the older configuration of Phoenix, where there's no runoff on the back straightaway, no runoff over in turns 3 and 4. I mean, how patient did you have to be with not only the drivers, but with the car and the changing conditions of the track as well to get yourself up there, at least into the top 5, let alone be able to get up there to the front to win this thing?
I had to be a little aggressive at the beginning. I think right before the first caution came out, I'd passed 7 or 8 cars on the outside. I was not saving because I didn't want to be in the back. I knew I had to get up towards the front. I figured there would be some cautions early, and there were, and it just kind of worked out to my benefit where kind of, about 40 laps into the race, I could start pacing myself and saving and then, just work my way up little by little.
Talked about those early cautions. I mean, we had 3 of them in the first 20 laps, and you were back there in that vicinity. How nervous were you with all the drivers around you, wondering if maybe another wreck was going to take place and you might have to pull off some wreck avoidance?
I was extremely concerned. That's why I was trying to get the heck out of there. I had the first incident, I think, happen right behind me. The second one happened right in front of me, and I was like, I gotta get up. I gotta get up a little closer to the front. Scary back here.
Jeremy, saw you hit that apron a couple of times and get out of shape. Were you scared that you were going to go around when you hit that a couple of times?
That first time I hit the apron and got sideways was probably my biggest scare of the entire race. I did not expect to get so loose.
We saw. Oh,
go ahead, Zach.
I was just going to say, we saw a number of drivers utilize some different pit strategies as well. There was one point where you and the 18 of Balcom kind of split between a lap between you two. And then there was another time the two of you came down pit road together. I mean, was there like some cat and mouse games going on between the two of you there, knowing it was probably maybe going to come down between the two of you in the closing stages?
Maybe. I know the last pit stop, I wanted to be on pit road first. I thought if I could get out in front of Robert, I could use the dirty air to keep him behind me. So that was my goal. I wanted to get out of pit road first, and I was able to do that. So that it worked out. But yeah, it was. I think if Robert had beat me out of the pits or he had pitted first, it would have been the exact opposite. He would have been first, and I would have been second.
Now, we heard you say you wanted to gain a lot of that track position to get up there. You didn't want to be in the back, and all that traffic you had to manage your way through for the most of this race just to get up there, Jeremy. I mean, how much of your tires were you using trying to get through traffic compared to when you were behind running second and third?
When I was in the back, I was probably about 30% more aggressive, I would say, on my tires. I was using them up pretty good, but once I got into the top 10, got a little more comfortable, I was pacing myself because I had seen that there were some drivers out there, especially up front, that wanted to take off fast and go. And then about halfway through the run, they started fading back. So I was like, if I could save my stuff and be there towards the end of the run, I'll probably get past them.
Did you hit the wall at any point, just like a light tap off of a turn 4 or turn 2?
I believe I came close once, but I don't think I ever actually hit it.
I was just curious if how effective the actual realistic damage was affecting. So we weren't sure because we saw a couple of drivers hit that outside wall, and we saw a few drivers hit the brakes trying not to wreck other people too. So that must have been really aggravating for you way back in the pack like you were. But luckily you were able to drive it all the way to the front. And out of curiosity, Jeremy, you running tomorrow night too?
I'm planning on being there.
Well, there's your answer to that, Seth.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, we're able to kind of hang out here and listen into some stuff that happens pre-race. And I heard this guy get asked the question if he was racing tonight, and he says, I'm not sure. Well, it's a good thing that Jeremy Jeffries did decide to climb into his race car tonight, because he puts that Monster Energy machine in victory lane at Phoenix. And Jeremy, we're now going to let you do some shout outs.
Well, kind of respond to your last comment. That's the reason I started in the back, because I was late and I missed the drivers' meeting, so I wasn't able to qualify. But I made it, and shout outs, especially first off to you, Seth and Jessica, and all the commentators on Flatout Racing Network. You all have done a great job every single broadcast and continue to do so. Also to RTG, the owners, Sean Prime, David Cannon, Terry Bowman. They keep this place going. It's a well-oiled machine, and they just do a great job. All the admins, especially tonight, Dante, Mitch, Terry, Bombard, they keep the Tuesday series going, the Winston Cup series, and man, just everybody at RTG. It's so much fun to race here.
Aren't you gonna plug? Wait, aren't you gonna plug your own series here?
Well, I do have a series that I run on Sunday night, the Triple X series. It's 3 races, 10% each, no cautions. It's just more for fun, something to do, something different. And then, of course, on Monday nights, you were there last night, we had the Barebone series. I also helped as the race director for that series. So I'll give them a little shout out.
Well, I am curious about something, Seth, if I may ask one more thing about Jeremy here. With the way you have your league and you're running that, and then you've got other responsibilities outside of the other league, with, like you said, Monday, you run your own series on Sunday. Does that ever affect anything you do on track when you're trying to race? Like, does anything come in your mind like, well, I know this person's like this, and I have to be careful because I don't want to cause an issue that results into another thing that will pull over? I mean, a lot of these guys are mature enough not to cause any drama, but I'm just wondering, on your mind, how does it weigh on your mind with you being server admin, running a league, running this, doing the director of this, and also being a driver at the same time? Like, how much does that weigh on you during races?
It kind of gives me an advantage, I feel like, because I can go through and be in the race. I'll see how people drive in the race, and then the series that I help admin, I could go back and watch the replays and see how people drive. And we review all the incidents for every series, and I get to see what this person does sometimes in this situation and that situation. So when I'm racing around them, I kind of already know what to expect, and I actually think that benefits me a lot.
All right. So you got to win, Jeremy. You got another win. You better show up tomorrow and run and try to win tomorrow then.
I'm going to try. I don't even know what track they're running, but I'm going to try. I plan on it.
They're going to be at RTG Motor Speedway, I believe, tomorrow night for the Air 88 series. But, I mean, Jeremy, congrats on your win here tonight. An amazing feat here at a track as difficult and as narrow as this version of Phoenix. 23rd to 1st for a victory here tonight. Great run for you. And, look forward to seeing what you can do tomorrow night, as well as next week when you guys here in the Winston Cup Series head to Rockingham.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Seth. Thank you, Jessica. Great job.
Now, normally on our Flatout Racing Network broadcast, we only interview the top 3 and that's it. But tonight had a very special stipulation coming into it, with the fact that we had a chance of crowning a champion for the overall series. And all he had to do was finish in the 16th position. He finishes in the 4th position. And so officially, regardless of what happens in the next 3 weeks at Rockingham, Texas, and Atlanta, Dante Ricky is going to be your Winston Cup Series champion here for RTG, and we have him now. I mean, Dante, you came in with the stipulation that you had to at least finish up, at least maybe inside of the top 15, head and shoulders above that, buddy. A 4th place run here tonight, up there in the conversation at one point to maybe take the race lead as well. I mean, at any point were you feeling kind of nervous about preserving that points lead, or did you have that confidence staying in the top 10 all night?
Wow, thank you so much, Seth and Jessica. This was an amazing race tonight for the league. I think we had our best racing of the year league-wide, with a good crowd of 25 drivers tonight who all gave it 100%. And I'll tell you what, I was a little bit worried early in the race that being in the 5th, 6th position I was still at a place where it was good for the finish of the race, but I really was playing it conservative and making sure I stayed off of the wall and didn't make any mistakes, hit my marks really well, and it paid off tonight. It's a good feeling to have this a few weeks early for the overall, but we're still going to be very competitive here in the next couple of weeks because we've got that Chase Championship to compete for in Atlanta in November, and that'll be right around the corner once we get there, and we still got to qualify for the final three and have a shot for the Chase Championship as well. But I will say that my last pit stop was not my best pit stop. I made a mistake. I slid through the stall, got off of the pit road, I believe in sixth or seventh place, but still was on the right side of the tire strategy. So even though I was thinking about the short pit strategy for the finishing position, I actually ended up turning it okay and coming out of the pit road in a place where I could make some passes. And really, really good job by Jeremy tonight to win the race. Good racing with Robert too. Frank Rivard was amazing. He and I had a good battle there at the end around Dave Melson, who Dave had a really fast car at the end of the race. And I was thinking that it was either going to be Dave or Robert that could win, and Jeremy was able to make his way through all the traffic and pull it off. So I got to say, all the top five finishers tonight were really really fast, and it was an enjoyable race to be in and be a part of. And I've really really enjoyed this series here on Tuesday nights that we have, and a big thank you to David Cannon and Terry Bauman and Sean Prime, our league owners, for putting it on, and also special thanks to my friends and family, everybody watching tonight. And we really really had a good show and a good showing of drivers to come to the last couple of races of the season, and it's a good feeling to have the overall wrapped up here.
You
I
know,
want
one,
to
oh,
go ahead, Seth.
I was just going to ask real quickly here too. With the fact you've got this overall season championship racked up, you already brought up the fact that you guys are still doing the chase system here, and you'd love to win the championship there as well. But do you now head into Rockingham, at Texas, at Atlanta, maybe more aggressive in trying to win these races, or due to the fact that you do have another championship on the line, do you kind of keep the role that we know you for of the consistent finishes?
Yeah, I mean, Rockingham is actually one of my better racetracks. I've almost always been competitive for a race win or near the race win in the top five at Rockingham. And being such a tire eating racetrack that it is, I expect Rockingham's race next week to be more similar to tonight. I think I will be a little more conservative next week, but moving forward to Texas, Texas is really a wild card. It's a hit or miss. We could have a really good race there, or we could have a lot of cautions. And sometimes at that Texas racetrack, there are situations that could be out of your hands. It is a really good racetrack with an amazing setup. The turn one and turn three are banked differently from each other with progressive banking and different angles. So it is a really fun racetrack to drive on, but there is a lot of danger at Texas when you look at the schedule for the last three races. So the race I'm most concerned about is the cut race to Texas. If we can make it into the top three in the final three at Atlanta, whoever the best man is, they win. So, it's really, really super competitive here at the end of the season, and we're just going to keep trying to get the best finish we can, and hopefully get a race win or two as well. So, it's going to be exciting here.
I just wanted to bring up a couple of things, Seth. Dante, you are now a champion over here, right? The Winston Cup Series, winning the overall championship. I want to ask you, Monday nights, you're going for that championship too. Now, this leads to my next point here. Seth and I, we used to race way back when on other leagues, and we weren't all too good. And I remember when we first started racing around you and like the smaller leagues and all, you were roughly where we were, and slowly I got better than Seth, and Seth started getting better than me. And we didn't race around you too much, and then all of a sudden we started racing around you, and you started getting more competitive, and all of a sudden we can't even. We're in the top fifth. We're back here in 20th and 21st, and you're up there in 15th. And all of a sudden, few weeks later, you're running like top 10, and then all of a sudden you're winning races, being consistent enough to get championship, which leads to my question: racing over here with this group of people, Do you feel like it's actually elevated you to a new height for experience to know what you're doing because you're more competitive now?
Absolutely, Jessica. You know, this league is so special because you have such great drivers like Robert Balcom and Jeremy Jeffries and Grant Wesley. And on Thursday night with Bob Seminara and Joe DeSpirito, all of these really fantastic race car drivers, too many to count and name, who have really been good friends of mine, taught me a lot of tricks here and there, and I've learned from the decisions that they've made when I go and look at the replay and find an opportunity to see what I can do better here and there. And I absolutely agree that the level competition here has elevated my game, and even more so to the point in which that some of those drivers I named weren't able to make it to a full schedule here in this Tuesday night league. And had they been able to make it for more races, I think we would have had, you know, even stronger, tighter competition here at the end of the year. And, I would absolutely agree that it has really pushed me to compete for those top five finishes because I know how hard it is to get a win. On the season, I had 3 race wins here on Tuesday night, but I also am leading the board in top fives and top tens, and that's really what helped me get through the season with such a good result. So I've got to say, there's a lot of great drivers in this league, and even the people, Terry Bombard and Bernie Mobs both have been here every week, and they're amazing competitors as well. Outstanding competition to race against those guys. So it's a lot of fun for any person who's trying to get into the NASCAR 2003. And, this is our league that runs a full year schedule and you get a mix of racetracks from intermediate to big. Originally, I was never that good at the short tracks. It turns out that just from some experience, winning the race at Dover was a huge moment for me this season. And, the short track racing and the speedways and intermediates have always been my favorite. But, it's just an exciting mix of racetracks and really, really good competition here. Our drivers are top notch. They take it seriously. They're here to come out and compete. And that's what I like about it.
And that's one of the reasons why Seth and I sometimes we like to come over here, go to a league such as Fast or something. We want to get to a point where we know we suck. You know, we suck. All right, sorry, Seth, but we do.
I wouldn't say
So we
that,
gotta
but
we gotta have people who are better than us that elevate us to a higher level, and then slowly and surely we'll gain on them, which it shows really well for you. Seth and I, we watch other drivers. We don't say much about them, but we see people get better all the time, and you're pretty much a really good example of that because look what you've done this season. Look, you're coming into your own, getting a lot better. Not just on those plate tracks, but all the other places as well. You're a champion now overall. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this, Seth.
I think the only other thing to say is congratulations. I mean, it goes back to that old adage: consistency wins championships. I know you've only had 3 wins here on the season, but all the other finishes that were not trips to victory lane were top fives and top tens, which is exactly what you need to be able to win, especially in a system like this where it really comes down to just the best overall performance. So, congratulations, Dante. Well deserved.
thank you, Seth. Thank you, Jessica. Really, really good job with tonight's broadcast, and we hope to see both of you in 3 weeks for our finale.
Well, we're going to
Absolutely.
be here tomorrow night doing the broadcast for the Aero 88 series.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
so I'll be in the race too. So look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Thank you.
But we'll look forward to seeing what Dante's able to do tomorrow night when the Air 88 series heads over to RTG Motor Speedway. But, it's very unusual, obviously, at least over here, with the fact that a lot of the series now have adapted playoffs and chase systems where it really comes down to the season finale. The Winston Cup Series, they run just like old school NASCAR did, with having it be best finisher, the highest in points over 36 races. That's why we have the situation we do with 3 races left. We've already crowned our champion, but again, like I said, consistency wins championships. That's what Dante Ricci's been able to do, and so now he can head into, as far as the overall championship, worry-free going into Texas, going into Rockingham, going into Atlanta. But I mean, Jess, we're still going to be, as you said, we're covering the season finale there at Atlanta. We're still going to be having another champion crown there in terms of the chase segment here for this series.
And, Dante's got to focus on that issue as well with the chase segment. But if you look at the overall, I mean, it's great to have series that have segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, and overall it gives every driver a more of a chance to sit there and say, well, guess what? I actually won the segment 1. No, well, guess what? I won the segment 2. Well, guess what? I won segment 3. Guess what? I won the chase. Guess what? I won the overall. It gives them all a chance to get involved in it and actually get a chance to get up there in that top spot and see what they're messing up on, see where they can improve on, and come back later the following season or maybe in the next series to, that they might be running the next night or next week or so and elevate their game a little higher. I mean, like I mentioned with Dante, I asked him how he felt over here, and it's elevated his game through time. It'll elevate other people's games a little bit higher as well. And we see it with Dante. Can't wait to see who's next in line for that.
And to kind of piggyback off of your point, they do this overall in RTG as well. They've got the segments here for the Winston Cup Series. Bare Bones and Aero 88, they've got the Challenger Series as well. So there's something for drivers to be able to battle for. The Talladega Challenge Series, they've got the bracket series that goes on. So it keeps the drivers constantly involved. There are a lot of leagues out there, and I know that there's a league that I've run where this has been the case as well. You get down to the end of the season, and you really only have your drivers that are in the chase or in the playoffs that show up. Everybody else is like, well, there's nothing else to really race for. With the system that they've got here with the little mini series inside of the main series, it keeps the drivers constantly involved, giving them a reason each week to show up and race.
And you also got to mention this too. Donnie Garrett recently came up with a brainchild idea of a fantasy league. I mean, if you're in the winner bracket or the loser bracket for Thursday nights, for example, even if you're in the Monday night series and don't race Thursday whatsoever, if you aren't even part of anything really, I mean, at least there's that fantasy thing you can just sit there and have fun with. It doesn't cost anything. They just sit there and throw a couple of drivers and go, oh, well, this guy, maximum 50K, and I get to have fun with a little fantasy league, I mean, there's something for everyone to at least capitalize on and enjoy one way or another.
And talk about that little bit of incentive as well for the Talladega Challenge drivers to do better and finish well, knowing that they've got that amount on them for the fantasy league to try and help those that pick them during that week to try and get the maximum points. So, RTG has such an amazing system here. They've been doing this on this sim for decades now.
Well, they started in, if I remember correctly, they've been around for about 15 years or so, and now they're on season 51 of most of these series. So they've been around. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been around as long as they have and been continuing as strong as they have.
They've got it down to a science, and then they keep coming up with new ideas, as you just said. But Jeremy Jeffries here tonight takes the checkered flag at the Phoenix International Raceway. Dante Ricky wraps up the overall championship here for the Winston Cup Series. 140 laps here tonight, Jess. We had to battle through a couple of early cautions, but some 2 really long green flag runs, and in the end, it really just came down to clean air and fresh tires.
And definitely a lot of patience and consistency with the drivers that were in the mid-pack and the back, like Jeremy Jeffries did. I mean, Robert Balcom, he lost a little bit of ground and worked his way back up. Dante, consistency, just minding his own line, running smoothly and carefully. And we saw some drivers up near the front have to make an early exit and end up having to back out to the point of using up their stuff a little bit earlier. But, I mean, that's racing, and that's what makes everyone enjoy it, because now you know what you can do, learn from it, move on to the next race, and when you come back, see if you can capitalize on what you made a mistake on.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter what track you're at, what group of drivers you've got. You cannot predict the finish until that checkered flag flies. But Jeremy Jeffries with a victory here tonight. As we stated, we've got coverage tomorrow as well for RTG. Going to be covering the Aero 88 series as they'll be taking to RTG Motor Speedway. And then Thursday night, we finish off our RTG sweep of this weekend with another Talladega Challenge race, getting closer to the end of the regular season, getting close to putting that playoff grid together.
Yep, and we know that most of the time after all these seasons are over, Seth, I mean, we got that Dega chase starting to loom close as well. And, at the end of these, what do we have? We have that All-Star race possibly lurking around the corner. I don't know when that'll be, but there's probably an idea of, hey, the All-Star race is coming up. That exhibition race is right around the corner somewhere. And we know that usually happens after all the seasons are done running. So a lot of these drivers are trying to think about that and see which way this is going to go with that as well. I mean, are you going to broadcast with me tomorrow as well?
Yes, I am going to be on hand for tomorrow night's race as well from RTG Motor Speedway. We've also got a lot going on the iRacing side as well. While we'll be covering the Aero 88 series tomorrow, we're going to also be covering here on the Flatout Racing Network SARG. They're continuing on their season with their Super Speedway series. Fuel IndyCar, we've got them on Thursday night. And then we've also got the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. They're going to be on Friday night before a very busy weekend where we're going to be covering not only the Veterans of World War Cup Series, but the continuation of the playoffs in the FTF Grand National Series as well. So a lot of stuff going on here this week for FRN on both the NR and iRacing side.
And we also have a special event in like about 11 days coming up with the Talladega racetrack at Talladega, which is what is it, Seth? Our 6th or 7th annual?
I believe it is our 6th annual Talladega special event. That's a league that, or not league, but a special event I've been putting on, I think, since 2013 or 2014. Always a lot of fun. Should be good here this year as we've been actually having some qualifying sessions as well during the past 2 weeks. So should be a good one. Going to be taking place on Halloween afternoon, so be sure to tune into that one as well.
And a whole bunch of scary, good-looking, tasty cars of Halloween treats, and especially that car I saw on that qualifying thing with that weird cat look on that front end, and I was really curious about that. But yeah, it's going to be really nice to get on track. I'm going to be part of that. You're going to be part of that. It's going to be fun, and I mean, this month has been great with a whole bunch of events so far, and we got more coming.
Been packed full of racing here during the month of October, and you're right, a lot more on the horizon here. Just, a great run here tonight, great race, and looking forward to tomorrow night. Thanks for joining me for this one here tonight at Phoenix.
Yep, can't wait for tomorrow night.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We hope you guys enjoyed our coverage here this evening. Jeremy Jeffries, once again, your winner. Dante Ricky, officially your champion here in the RTG Winston Cup Series. For Jessica Shelton, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys tomorrow night as we'll see the Aero 88 drivers take to RTG Motor Speedway. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.